This guy farms immortal ogres for points. A monster that no matter how many times you kill it, it will be resurrected again the next day, stronger and faster. Thanks to his skill, decapitation, he drops them in one clean strike and treats the hunt like practice. With the points he earns, he blesses a withered tree into an emperor apple tree, and those apples sell for a crazy amount of money. But he wasn't always this strong. To understand the story better, let's go back to the very start. Earth was dying and lost every vitality it had to provide, and then a certain being revealed just what Earth needed. The Absolute being advised to dispatch to another world, and with this, dispatchers, who are now regarded as heroes, left the Earth for other worlds. From the other worlds, dispatchers are able to bring back new things that are essential for humanity's survival. Our MC, Chansu, is working a trash gardening job, but he wishes that he could become a dispatcher too. After the day's work, he heads to the dispatcher reunion center, where there is a bulk load of people trying to get information on their loved ones. He manages to get past all the other people who are there to reach the receptionist. The receptionist checks his log and realizes that Chansu doesn't have enough to pay for the investigation he is requesting. He tells him to come back when he finally has the required money. Chansu begs the man to at least give him some news, but he is pushed out of the way by the next customer. Chansu has no choice but to step away, and he walks back home decisively. Apparently, when he was little, his father was a top-ranked veteran, also known as a returnee. They were always together, but when Earth's condition got worse, he was dispatched again. And since then, he hasn't seen his father again. After waiting for so long, his mother also went in search of her husband, but in the end, Chansu found himself all alone. He has grown so much that the memories he has with them have started to fade. He can't even picture their faces clearly anymore. Suddenly, a bright golden light hits the outside of his apartment, leaving a massive wave that sends him flying into the wall. He passes out cold, and when he wakes up, it's been hours. An emergency news alert popped up on his phone, warning about the turbulence and flash caused by a returnee's re-entry. To make the situation worse, an S-rank returnee announces his retirement, shocking everyone. The S-rank dude talks about how he failed to protect the dispatchers who accompanied him. He also could not protect his god, and in the end, he returned alone, a failure. The dude says he can no longer dispatch because he has lost the ability and the qualification to do so. Apparently, the earthquake and the bright light were a result of his re-entry. With a broken voice, the dude announces his retirement, while asking everyone to do their best to protect Earth. This is basically bad news for everyone because Earth's population has grown below 500 million, making it hard to raise high-ranking dispatchers. Chansu cannot believe that the dude failed at his mission, and he is also retiring from it. Just then, he hears a knock on the door, and he wonders who it could be. He stands and he walks to the door, wondering why he is getting a visit because it is very unusual. He opens the door and hears a voice calling him, but he doesn't see anyone standing at the door. Just as he is about to start believing that he is going crazy, the voice directs him to look down. Chansu stares down to see a cute talking bunny holding a tablet device and staring at him. This scares Chansu so hard that he falls on his arse. But the rabbit simply continues with his business, asking him if he is Chansu. The rabbit then tells Chansu to calm his nerves because he brought wonderful news for him. The rabbit smiles, congratulating Chansu on becoming a dispatcher. Chansu is shocked to hear this, forcing him to ask the rabbit again if he knows what he is saying. The rabbit admits that Chansu is probably confused, but he assures him that it doesn't take away the fact that he has been chosen. Since Chansu is acting suspiciously, the rabbit suggests that they move to another location. As they walk through an unfamiliar hallway, the rabbit asks Chansu if he has any special skills, because most people have at least one. Chansu then replies that he is the highest in the Trash League, which is why he is not even qualified to be a dispatcher. However, he is pretty good at trimming trees or flowers. The rabbit is shocked to his bones when he hears this, and Chansu is also surprised that the dude approached him without knowing that he is worthless. The rabbit then calms himself down, saying there is always a reason for everything. He assures Chansu that he might be worthless, but it doesn't change the fact that he was chosen. Chansu is completely blown away because he never expected to find himself in the dispatch center, which means a chance has finally come for him. They arrive at a very large door, and the rabbit suggests that they go inside to continue their conversation. Before the rabbit could continue with what he was saying, Chansu had reached the door. He tries opening the giant door, but for obvious reasons, the door won't budge. This is when the rabbit disgustingly asks him what he is doing with the door. The rabbit says the entrance they are going to use is to his right. Chansu doesn't want to believe his eyes when he realizes that the rabbit is pointing to a very tiny door, which is a perfect size for the rabbit, not freaking humans. The rabbit says he has never had issues using the door, and Chansu is forced to remind him that he is a freaking rabbit. Believing that the rabbit is nuts, Chansu says he has to leave, and the rabbit asks him if he is sure he is making the right decision. The rabbit reminds him that he has failed every test that he has taken, but in the end, a rare opportunity has come knocking on his door. The rabbit asks him if he thinks an opportunity like this will ever come in his lifetime again. The rabbit tries to tell Chansu that he is not trying to coerce him because he is free to leave if that is what he really wants. After hearing this, Chansu has no choice but to crawl through the small passage to follow the rabbit to his bright, tidy office. This is shocking to Chansu because he was expecting a tiny office. The rabbit then tells him that there is a world that is suited just for him. Chansu is confused by this, asking if there is a different world that fits each person. The rabbit informs him that there is a world called block-type land grabbing, and it has an event in progress. Chansu's eyes light up in shock when he sees this, and the rabbit assumes that he knows about it, but Chansu says it is his first time hearing about it. The rabbit mentions that the world is the most sought after in recent days. Apparently, the world has the unique feature of receiving the divine protection of a god. Chansu becomes more interested when he hears this because the returner also made mention of a god. The rabbit notices the change in expression, and he assures him that choosing him has no connection to the recent event. Chansu then asks the rabbit what type of god he is talking about, and the rabbit mentions that gods are assigned on a random basis, but since Chansu is his favorite person, he might as well give him the chance to choose what god he wants. The rabbit then brings out 3 cards, asking Chansu if he is ready to choose. Chansu is confused by this because he doesn't even know which of the cards is good or bad. The rabbit reminds him that this opportunity might not come again, and Chansu agrees with him. Remembering his father, Chansu is pissed that he is even hesitating in the first place. Chansu then chooses his card, and a visual representation of the god appears right in front of him, shocking him. This scares the living daylight out of him, and when he stares at the card that he chose, he realizes that it is the god of negation, with a 44% rate. The rabbit urges him not to be a coward because everything he just saw is nothing but a dramatic effect. With his heart almost out of his body, Chansu is forced to ask just what kind of god would require an effect that almost sends him to the afterlife. In addition, Chansu doesn't think the god is the right choice for him because the name alone spells trouble. Chansu gets back on his feet and nervously asks the rabbit if there is a chance that he can draw the cards again. The rabbit assures him that he can, ultimately shocking him. Chansu quickly draws the card, and just like before, he pulls the god of negation again. Chansu is pissed, and he starts assuming that the draws are a scam because there is no way he is getting the same god every single time. The rabbit then tells him that there is nothing wrong with the cards. Chansu is surprised to see the rabbit change his expression, and then he tells him that he has just one last chance to draw a card. He urges Chansu to choose properly this time around. Chansu is frustrated, and he hopes to just pick anything, which is basically not the god of negation. He draws another card, and this time a bright green light appears, and Chansu's face brightens up with hope. This time around he pulled a card, which is the goddess of abundance, but it has a less than 1% probability. He is about to lose interest when he sees a visual representation of the goddess, and boy, she is freaking hot. Even the rabbit can see the practical imagination on Chansu's face. The rabbit smiles, asking Chansu if he would like another chance. This shocks Chansu because the dude literally just told him he was giving him the last chance. Chansu then asks the rabbit what would happen if he decides on the current card, and the rabbit lets him know that he would have to depart immediately. Chansu is shocked to hear this, and the rabbit asks him if there is any reason for him to hesitate. He tells Chansu that he has a rare chance to go from being a dispatcher to becoming a returner. The rabbit starts feeding his head with sweet imaginations of how people will celebrate him for being a hero. The rabbit tells him that being a dispatcher will give him a very good life, which is 10 times better than the one he is currently living. Chansu realizes that the rabbit is actually right because his life is basically worthless in the first place. He makes his decision, and the system informs him that he has been chosen to serve the goddess of abundance. The image of the goddess is shown to him, and it is just what he imagined in his head. Chansu smiles, believing that he would be able to do anything if he were with such a goddess. Chansu then asks the rabbit where he is supposed to go. The rabbit opens a portal, saying it is time for them to go. But just then, he pushes Chansu straight for the portal. Chansu fears, asking the rabbit if it is really safe for him to enter the portal. The rabbit teases him that the portal is beautiful, but to Chansu, he is staring at an obvious death trap. Nonetheless, he has no intentions of backing down, as he plans to become very successful to show his haters that they are trash. While he is busy thinking about how he is going to become successful, the rabbit pushes him into the portal. Just then, a voice scolds the rabbit for directly intervening in the matter when he knows that it is quite forbidden. The rabbit replies that they have no choice because Chansu is the only one who can help. While getting sucked into the portal, Chansu spots the loading screen, and a tip pops up, telling him the percentage signifies the size of the god's faction. This shocks Chansu to his bones because he thought the percentage was a probability, but it turned out to be something worse. Chansu finally makes it to his new world, with the pain that he is just learning about something so crucial. He looks around to see that everywhere is not far from a wasteland. In addition to the goddess not having a faction, he has found himself in a doomed land. Seeing this, tears fall out of his eyes, and he concludes that he is done for. Chansu was expecting an abundant land, but everything he is staring at is nothing but a wasteland. The system window pops up again, welcoming Chansu to the world of digging. It tells Chansu that he is the apostle of the goddess, and he is required to secure as many land rights as possible through digging. Before he starts doing anything, he thinks of looking around first. He figures out that he needs to find the goddess, and he suddenly runs into an old, shabby sickle. He wonders if someone used it and then threw it away. Since he is a gardener, the sickle matches his hand really perfectly. Suddenly, he feels an overwhelming presence behind him, and fear grips him that a monster is about to consume him. Fear creeps through his body when he realizes that he hasn't even met the goddess yet, and a monster is about to make a meal of him. Chansu concludes that death is the last thing he wants at the moment. He decides to threaten the monster by swinging his sickle. He turns around and swings it really hard, only for him to see that there is no monster but a cute hamster staring at him. Chansu crouches to stare at the hamster, and he can clearly see that it doesn't harbor any sense of hostility toward him. Suddenly, it crosses his mind that he might get a bonus for taking out the hamster, and the hamster screams out its lungs in fear. Chansu smiles, because he has successfully messed with the hamster. He decides to let it live as long as it doesn't cause him any problems. Suddenly, the hamster turns around to leave. The hamster stops at a distance, beckoning Chansu to follow him. Chansu then runs after the hamster, which is pretty fast for its size. Chansu wonders where they are going until they reach a stream, where Chansu wastes no time fetching water into his bottle to drink. He feels very refreshed, and he asks the hamster if he knows where the goddess is staying. The hamster tries responding to him, but their communication technique differs from each other. The hamster continues moving again, and Chansu follows it, waiting to see where the hamster is leading him. Moments later, they arrive at a huge tree that has dried up like the trees on Earth. Chansu steps on a whittled ginseng, shocking him. He wonders what a ginseng is doing in such a shabby place, but the hamster suddenly grabs the ginseng away from Chansu. Chansu is confused as he believes that the ginseng is for the hamster. Just then, the notification comes on, telling Chansu that he has discovered the goddess. Chansu believes that the system is glitching because he has not seen the goddess anywhere around. Chansu is rambling about this when the hamster grabs his leg, and he assumes that the hamster is messing with him. He grabs the hamster, telling it that he is busy and not ready to play. However, the hamster's expression tells Chansu something important that he has been missing. In the most unexpected surprise, the wilted ginseng is the freaking goddess. Chansu doesn't want to believe this, because the goddess he saw was pretty bountiful, and there is no way she has shriveled into an ugly ginseng root. Since he is not ready to believe his eyes, the hamster brings out a magnifying glass for him to look through, and this is when he finally accepts reality. He holds his head in pain because the land grabbing and the percentage that he saw was nothing but a foreshadowing of his future situation. Chansu remembers that the numbers were going up when he was drawing the cards, and this basically means the god's influence was growing then. Chansu cannot believe that the god of negation was actually a good card, and it was hard to believe since it was coming up pretty often. Chansu wonders if the goddess shriveled away because her influence went down completely. Chansu stares at the goddess, wondering why she is not waking up. He starts to fear that he has completely killed the goddess when he steps on her, but the hamster just stares at him like some really dumb dude. It then dawns on Chansu that he might get the goddess to wake up if he gives her some water. He pours water on her, and surprisingly, a bright green effect emerges from the ginseng's body. This tells Chansu that the water is working, and he proceeds to give her some more water. He drowns the goddess in water, ultimately restoring the goddess's sense. The goddess almost drowns in the water, and she starts wishing Chansu would stop before it is too late. The goddess finally comes to life, and Chansu celebrates his aggressive CPR skills. The hamster is also glad that its master is back to life. Just then, Chansu bows to the goddess, offering his greetings and telling her that he is her apostle. The goddess manages to sit up to look at her apostle. Chansu is totally confused about what to do until the Windows notification pops up, telling him that he can become stronger by using his skills. Chansu is surprised because he didn't know that there were skills readily available for him. He sees one of the skills, which is the goddess's blessing, and even though there is no description of what the skill does, Chansu assumes that it is for making crops beautiful. Just then, he applies it, and he realizes that the blessing is called decapitation. This shocks Chansu, since decapitation basically means cutting off a head. He doesn't want to imagine himself cutting heads around just to live an abundant life. However, he concludes that there is no way the goddess of abundance would grant him such a violent skill. Chansu turns to the goddess to ask her if he is truly meant to cut somebody's head off, and the goddess's reaction just confuses him. He then concludes that there is nothing else but to decapitate someone. Chansu starts thinking about the several things that this might entail, and then it suddenly dawns on him that the hamster might be ripe for decapitation. The hamster is busy celebrating the revival of the goddess, not knowing that Chansu is staring at him with the most evil eyes ever. The hamster turns around to see Chansu fully armed and ready to turn it into 2 pieces. Just before the sickle can hit, the hamster makes a run for it. Chansu continues his chase, and realizing that there is no way out, the hamster hides behind the goddess. Chansu calmly tells the hamster that he is not happy with what he is about to do, but it is all for the goddess's sake. Suddenly, the hamster and the goddess start to panic, and when Chansu turns around, he sees a terrifying creature standing behind him. Chansu also notices that the hamster has jumped in front of the goddess, and this is when it dawns on him that the hamster wasn't a monster after all. Chansu admits his mistake and figures out that he has to make amends for his mistake by defeating the real monster standing in front of him. However, the question of whether he can do it remains a thing. Nonetheless, Chansu is a brave dude, and he charges at the monster with the sickle in hand, and thanks to the decapitation skill, he can see exactly where he needs to cut. He activates the decapitate skill, and he leaps at the monster, swinging the sickle so hard that it takes down the monster in one strike. The hamster and the goddess are left in shock when they see this. Chansu casually returns to the goddess like he didn't just do something pretty crazy. Chansu then bows to the hamster for mistaking him for a monster and almost sending him 6 feet underground. He asks the hamster to forgive him, and the hamster smiles before giving Chansu a thumbs up to let him know that he is not holding grudges against him. Chansu is happy to see this, and he gives the hamster a name, Hamstol. The name sounds so good to the hamster that it starts to blush hard from it. Just then, the Windows notification pops up again, telling Chansu that the head of the monster will automatically be transported due to the skill's effect. This is when Chansu finally learns the name of the monster that he killed, which is the Immortal Ogre. Because he has defeated one ogre, a kill count also appears to show him that he can kill as many of them as he wants. Chansu is surprised that the monster is known as the Immortal Ogre when there is nothing really immortal about it. The system comes up with another notification, telling Chansu that the transported offering now belongs to the goddess. Chansu turns to look at the goddess, and he realizes that the goddess has become even fresher than before. It dawns on Chansu that if he continues working hard and terminating monsters, it will, in turn, help the goddess return to her best form. Motivated to see the goddess's hot body, Chansu runs off to find more monsters to kill. He soon runs into a horde of immortal ogres. He gets another tip that there are unidentified points that can only be used by the world system, which means that they cannot be traded between individuals. Chansu is surprised because he didn't know when he acquired the points. Nonetheless, it is a good thing for him, and he figures out that getting rid of the ogres is the next thing on his list. Chansu is glad that he can wield the decapitation skill because it makes killing the ogres easy for him. Chansu dashes toward the ogres, activating the decapitation skill, and he cuts them down with just one swing. Another tip pops on, telling him that he can acquire points by killing monsters. Chansu sees this as a go-ahead to kill as many monsters as he can because the system just gave him the go-ahead. Chansu has defeated 4 immortal ogres already, and he thinks of killing about 100 just for the feel of it. After defeating the first wave of monsters, Hamstol celebrates on Chansu's shoulder as if he were the one who defeated the monsters. Chansu then asks why the monster is called an immortal ogre when they die too easily for something that should be eternal. Since no one can answer his question yet, he figures out that he will get the answer to his question if he continues defeating the monsters. Chansu returns to the tree to find the goddess looking even more beautiful than before. Chansu smiles because the effect is coming in faster than he even thought. He is excited to see the goddess return to her original form. The goddess then points to the huge tree, leaving Chansu confused about what he is supposed to do. It then dawns on him that the goddess is asking to be lifted into the tree. Chansu helps the goddess up, but the goddess beckons to him. The system then tells him that he can use the Blessing of Abundance, but every skill consumes points. Chansu touches the tree and activates the Blessing of Abundance. He pours all of his skill points into it, and with the help of the skill, he makes the tree bountiful again. By the time he is done, he is surprised to see that the tree is an apple tree, and there are apples hanging everywhere. He plucks one of the apples that looks really giant. Even though he has not seen an apple before, something tells him that it shouldn't be that big. Even though he is tempted to munch on the apple, he decides to offer the first harvest to the goddess. The goddess accepts the fruit, and to his shock, the goddess absorbs the apple in seconds. This leaves Chansu questioning the possibility of what he just witnessed. He realizes that the goddess is quite powerful and figures out that getting on the goddess's bad side is not a good thing for him. Chansu leaps onto the tree to fetch a bunch of apples so that he and Hamstol can both eat. Chansu figures out that he has to be pretty strong because the goddess he serves is not one to joke around with. Chansu munches on the apple, and he is surprised at just how delicious it is. While he is quietly enjoying his apple breakfast, the goddess, on the other hand, is wondering how Chansu is able to defeat several monsters in a single day. In addition to this, he was able to bring such a giant tree to life in just a day. A cold feeling runs through the goddess's body as she starts to wonder where such a monstrous boy like Chansu emerged from. Taking a deep dive into Abundance's backstory, she was in charge of food, and she was a force to reckon with because of the high-quality agricultural products that she offers. However, when the god of corruption started absorbing other factions, Abundance had no choice but to run away because corruption's power was getting too massive. To survive, Abundance abandoned her trade and resorted to hunting monsters, but her forces were unfit for combat. Because of this, they could not win a single battle, and as a last resort they modified their skill to make something else. However, this didn't guarantee Abundance's survival. Basically, the decapitating skill that Chansu thinks is for cutting off monsters' heads is actually a skill to help Abundance's subordinates bring back the heads of dead animals or monsters. Because her subordinates were bad at combat, they could only do their best. Just by staring at Chansu, the goddess is crippled with fear because he is completely different from what she envisioned. She wonders why Chansu chose her, but nonetheless she comes to the conclusion that Chansu now belongs to her. Chansu is trying to get another apple fruit when the goddess clings to his leg, and this scares Chansu, who believes that the goddess is trying to absorb him. But the goddess is only trying to hug him to thank him for everything so far. Later on, the goddess falls asleep, and Chansu lays her on the altar to sleep, but a loud thunder strikes out of nowhere. Chansu fears that this will wake the goddess, but to his surprise, the goddess remains fast asleep. Just then, Chansu realizes that apples alone won't sustain him. And at that moment, the system informs him that the delivery event is now in progress. Chansu is surprised to see that something like this exists. However, to make a delivery, he has to be able to contact those back on Earth. However, he notices that Hamstel is also tired, and he lays him beside the goddess. He even covers the two with leaves to serve as a blanket. Meanwhile, at the Reincarnation Trading Company, Hasujin, the Apostle of Reincarnation, bursts into her boss's office to scold him for giving him more work, even though she is already busy as it is. It turns out that they have gotten the order to deliver apples. The order also states that there is no money involved, which means that they are going to barter apples in return for goods. Hasujin screams at her boss, asking if she did something wrong, and he decides to punish her with this trash of a job, but her boss says no. Her boss tells her that the business trip to get the apples is actually good for her because she won't have to work, and this will serve as a break for her. Her boss tells her that staying at the office means more work for her, and he urges her to use the trip to clear her head a bit. Hasujin argues with him, saying there is no one else to send on the trip, which is why he is sending her. Her boss chuckles nervously because she might be right with her deduction. Her boss urges her to get a move on because she might just discover something lucky on the trip. He waves her goodbye, hoping that something good comes out of the trip. Hasujin checks out the order logs and realizes that there are a bunch of deliveries that she has to do, and she hopes that it is worth it, or else there is going to be a big problem. Meanwhile, Chansu has been gathering apples in preparation for delivery. While Chansu is gathering the apples, Hamstel is having a field day with them. Chansu soon finds him munching on the apples, and he grabs him, telling him to stop messing around with the apples. He tells him that the apples are for trading because they will be meeting with someone later in the day. Since the delivery person will be coming a long way, Chansu figures out that acting all cool on the first day will leave a good impression on whoever the person is. According to the information he got when signing the delivery event, he found out that the world is truly divided into blocks, and the Block Territory Conquest Grand Summon event is in progress. Even though it appears as a regular land, there is a wall at the edge, and to move to another block, a movement ticket is needed. Chansu figures out that there is really nothing around him, and it would take him a whole week to reach the nearest village. Chansu is glad that the delivery only takes 2 days. Even though it is quite fast, Chansu doesn't care as long as he gets his sleeping bags pretty fast. In addition, he ordered a cushion for the goddess to sleep on. Chansu is aiming to raise the goddess's affection to the maximum to make sure he doesn't get on her bad side. Chansu also notices that the immortal ogres have been showing up on their own since the day before, which is a good thing for him. He has finally figured out in the name that the immortal is more or less a reviving term. Nonetheless, Chansu doesn't care as long as he gets to terminate as many of them as he can while farming for points. While battling it out with the monsters, he almost gets crushed from behind, but he manages to dodge. This is when it dawns on him that the monsters have gotten slightly faster. He assumes that the monsters grow stronger just like skills do. Even with this, Chansu feels no danger coming from them whatsoever. While taking out the monsters, Hasujin is watching from the sky, and she has the same reaction as everyone who has witnessed Chansu take on the monsters. All she sees is a crazy, overpowered dude who has monsters for breakfast. Apparently, the immortal ogre was once considered the main hunting target for most dispatchers because it provided more points than regular monsters. However, no matter how many times it was killed, it always resurrected the next day, stronger than before. Even if the dispatcher moved their block, it would continue coming after them, which makes it the most persistent monster. In addition to this, it usually leaves a curse on its target, giving it the chance to wear them down until they eventually collapse. In the end, it became a creature that everyone avoids. That same creature is what Chansu is cutting down like tissue. Hasujin starts wondering if Chansu is so reckless that he doesn't even care about the monster's retaliation. Hasujin also notices that Chansu is not even purifying the defeated monsters. With everything she has seen, she assumes that Chansu is a swordsmaster. But then, she wonders why a swordsmaster would be picking apples out of all the things that he can pick. Hasujin concludes that Chansu is not a smart swordsmaster, but to avoid his wrath, she believes that it would be best to deal with him in the most gentle way possible. After taking down the horde of immortal ogres, Chansu realizes that he has gained a ton of points and that it is increasing exponentially too. Because of the blessing, an apple now costs 1,000 points. Chansu figures out that hitting 100 is not going to be a problem for him. He had been wondering why there was a shrine in the region in the first place, but it appears to be a jackpot for him. Just then, Hasujin approaches him and she humbly bows to him. She introduces herself, revealing that she is from the trading company and that she has come with Chansu's delivery. Chansu excitedly shakes Hasujin's hands, saying he is actually impressed that she managed to find the block on her first try. Deep down, Hasujin is scared because Chansu is a powerful dude, and she has to be very careful not to get on his bad side. Just then, she spots the hamster, and this catches her attention because he looks so squishy that she wants to hug him. Chansu notices the eagerness on her face, and he asks her if she is feeling unwell, but she replies that she is feeling good. Unknown to Chansu, Hasujin is just eager to touch the hamster. Chansu then tells Hasujin to follow him so he can lead her to where the apples are. Upon arriving there, the smell of the apples alone catches her attention, and she is forced to say this out. Chansu agrees with her, saying the apples grew really well. Hasujin cannot believe that the large tree standing in front of her is an apple tree. Chansu plucks one of the apples and he asks Hasujin if she would be willing to eat the apple. Hasujin collects the apples and the massive sizes of the apples shock her. However, she is not expecting anything great because when a fruit gets too big, the sweetness suffers a backlash. She expects to be disappointed, but the moment she bites out of it, she is sent into a state of unimaginable tastefulness. Hasujin realizes that the apple is quite sweet, and the acidity is also balanced out. She figures out that the apple would sell for nothing less than 100,000 gold because of how sweet it is. Hasujin then asks Chansu to confirm if he placed a 2,000 gold price tag on the apples, and Chansu says yes. Hasujin lets Chansu know that the price he placed on the apple is quite absurd, and Chansu thinks she is saying the apples are too expensive. Chansu nervously asks the lady how much she would be willing to buy the apples. Hasujin shocks Chansu when she tells him that he should be getting at least 20,000 gold per apple. Chansu almost loses his mind when Hasujin reveals that it could even get over 30,000 if he supplies them to a department store. Chansu cannot believe his ears. And even though Hasujin could have defrauded him, she doesn't think it would be nice to lose a potential long-term customer. In addition, she is not ready to die just yet, because she believes that this will be her fate if Chansu ever finds out. Hasujin then tells Chansu that the apples are not just apples, but the very first type of apple that has gotten a unique flavor she has not tasted before. Hasujin confesses that the apple holds more value than any regional specialty that she knows. To avoid overstretching things, she suggests that they just put it at 20,000 gold in the meantime. She brings out a formal contract, telling Chansu that the other balance will also be settled once he signs the contract. Chansu collects the pen and he looks through the contract to see what it entails. Once he sees that it is something favorable to him, he smiles. However, he suggests that they adjust a particular section of the contract. Hasujin is surprised when she realizes that the company's share percentage has gone up. Chansu lets her know that it wasn't a mistake, but he did that because he would like to build a long-lasting relationship with Hasujin. In addition, Hasujin was honest with him about how much the apples are worth. Chansu stretches his hand forward to shake her, and this shocks her. She then thanks Chansu for accepting the contract, and she hands over the items that he ordered. Among the things he ordered are seeds, food supplies, and cooking tools. In addition, there is a familiar egg, which is a commemorative gift from the trading company. Hasujin assures him that it will help him with his farming. She hands over the eggs to Chansu and says he might not even need them because he is already raising one. Chansu is surprised because he can't see the said familiar that he is raising. Hasujin then points to Hamstall, believing that Hamstall is Chansu's familiar. Hasujin then tells him that the more points he pours into the egg, the stronger it is going to be when the familiar hatches. However, she urges him to be careful because if he overdoes it, the egg will crack, leading to an automatic failure. She adds that Chansu should stop once the egg starts to tremble. After the instructions, Chansu tells Hasujin that he might just have to try it to get the perfect feel for it. Hasujin asks about the expected harvest and schedule for the apples, and Chansu says one day should be enough. This shocks Haesujin because they are going to be getting daily supplies of apples. After their brief, long, boring conversation, they work out the schedule, the numbers, and the visit dates. After everything has been sorted out, they conclude the first part of their deal. After Haesujin is gone, Chansu walks up to the goddess to thank her for staying hidden when Haesujin was around. Chansu looked at the several supplies that he got and couldn't believe that the sales of apples were lucrative. Nonetheless, he knows that he owes it all to the goddess. Just then, he spots the goddess hugging the eggs, and he realizes that he might have to hatch the eggs sooner. However, he is going to need more points if he is going to do this. To do this, he figures out that killing more monsters is the way forward. Chansu is proud of how things have come so far, but he is not delusional enough not to know that there will be difficulties ahead. Even with the thought of this, Chansu is not scared because he is built to face challenges. When Haesujin returns to the trading company, she tells her boss everything that she saw. She tells her boss that Chasun is definitely Korean, but she assumes that he is a member of the combat factions. Her boss is surprised that a combat-oriented person is able to raise such a good bulk of apples. Haesujin reveals that Chansu took down undead monsters with just a rusty sickle, and he only targeted their heads. Haesujin's boss believes that the dude might be aiming to become a swordsmaster by putting himself in a tough situation, just like a dude Rohan did. Haesujin's boss then says it would be advisable for them to keep Chansu hidden rather than assign guards to his position, and Haesujin agrees with this. While saying this, the dude doesn't stop munching on the sliced apples in front of him until Haesujin grabs his hand, reminding him that they are supposed to eat them together. Back in the world of abundance, Chansu is already pouring points into the eggs to try and hatch them. He wonders if he is going to get a cute or strong monster from the eggs. Just then, the egg cracks, leaving a bright light, and Chansu believes that an SS rank familiar is going to step out of the egg. Chansu's entire smile fades away when he sees a chick popping out of the egg. He cannot believe that all the hype was just for a big chicken when he was hoping to get a worker. He starts wondering what to do with the chick, and the first thing his mind goes to is to raise the chick to eat it. However, he is hesitant because he cannot just cook and eat a chick that he poured 120,000 points into. Because he is trying not to get too attached, he decides to give it the name Ari. Just when he is trying to get familiar with the Ari, the other egg starts to hatch too. Just like before, Chansu is hyped, as he believes that this will come out to be a worker. However, his face crashes in disappointment when a pig emerges from the egg, and Chansu wastes no time giving the pig the name Doji. Chansu is extremely disappointed, leaving him to wonder why he is getting only ingredients. He was told that he was going to get a familiar, but at this point, he thinks he has been scammed. Just then, Ari and Doji walk up to the goddess to greet her, and the goddess urges the two to forgive her for failing to protect them to the very end. The two also apologize for not being able to serve their goddess the way they should have served her. The goddess appreciates their honesty, but tells them that there is something they need to be careful of, and this is her apostle. She tells the two that Chansu doesn't know that they are her retainers, and he might just sell them off if they prove to be useless to him. To make it worse, he might even eat them, and the two can feel the scary aura coming from Chansu, which makes the goddess's claim valid. The goddess urges the two to be on their best behavior until Chansu is able to obtain the communication skill. The two agree with the goddess, saying it would be better for them to just observe as it is. The next morning, Chansu heads out as usual, and his main targets are the undead monsters. Doji and Ari wake up early in the morning to hear commotion everywhere. The sleep disappears from their eyes when they see Chansu running about, cutting down undead monsters. This is when it finally dawns on the two that Chansu is pretty dangerous, and the goddess was not joking when she told them to be on their best behavior. Ari tells Doji that Chansu was staring at them in the weirdest way, and Doji panics when he remembers this. Just as he finishes taking out the undead monsters, Ari and Doji appear with a towel on their head. They praise Chansu for the hard work and tell him to clean up with the towel. The two have seen Chansu in action, and they have finally understood what the goddess told them about being useful. Chansu thanks the two for being thoughtful, and after cleaning up, he offers them an apple. Doji rushes toward the plate while Ari is trying to act like he is not a glutton. Chansu is happy to feed the two because he once heard that grape-fed pork always tastes better. Ari tries to stop Doji from eating so he won't grow into Chansu's desired flavor. However, Ari also gets drawn in by the flavor of the apple because of the amount of points that Chansu poured into it. Nonetheless, he manages to control himself. Chansu then offers him grains and he jumps on the grains without wasting time. To him, he is making the right decision because he is never going to grow into fried chicken like Doji. After this, Chansu moves over to farming. He has Doji dig the ground, while Ari plants the black bean seeds. Chansu then covers the ground and gives the seeds water before adding the blessing of abundance. In no time, Chansu has a farm with healthy plants covering it. Chansu holds one of the seeds in his hands, and the moment Ari spots the seed, he locks in on it. He rushes toward Chansu, but he hides the seed, telling him that the first harvest must be given to the goddess. Chansu gives the goddess the seed as usual, and she absorbs it in the most weird way, just like she always does. Chansu then tells Ari and Doji that it is time they eat because they are going to plant potatoes later. Unlike before, Ari consumes as much food as Doji. The two end up looking like inflated balloons, and Ari believes that he is done for because he couldn't hold back his hunger. On the other hand, Chansu is just happy that the two are eating well, and this serves as a motivation for him to plant more crops that they are going to enjoy. Just then, his mind crosses the apples, and he hopes that they are selling well on the market. At the store, Hasujin's boss notices that the apples are the only items left for sale. A lot of people have gathered, but none of them are ready to buy, which is expected. He had even decorated the apple and packaged it well to make it more pleasing, but people don't think a single apple is worth 200,000 gold. He is left scratching his head in frustration because he has no idea how to convince people that the apple is actually delicious. He is pretty sure that everyone will change their minds after just a bite, but the problem is getting them to have a bite. Suddenly, he hears someone purchasing the apples. He rushes to the attendant to ask him what just happened, and the attendant reveals that all of the apples are sold out. He doesn't want to believe this, since there was still a bulk load of it some minutes ago. The attendant reveals that someone tasted one and then bought everything. The signature on the payment slip says Rohan, and this is when it dawns on the manager that the person who just patronized them and bought out the apples is none other than Rohan, the pioneer of the handicap training method. Rohan is also known as the unrivaled swordsmaster, which makes him a big deal, and the manager admits that they have struck gold. This ends up making the news big time, and everyone believes that the apples are what Rohan ate to become a swordsmaster. Haesujin's boss, Ryuwoo, starts getting calls from everywhere. Everyone wants a box or 100 boxes of the miracle apple. A week after Chansu arrived in the abundance world, he admits that he has been living life greatly. He has potatoes with him, and he is ready to cook. While cooking the tasty potatoes, Doji is already holding his leg to let him know that he is interested. Chansu simply reveals that he is not making the potato for him because he just finished eating his own meal. Nonetheless, he still gives him some to eat. Moments later, Haesujin shows up, and she is surprised to see that all of Chansu's familiars have hatched. To Haesujin, she is staring at a bunch of cute teddies that she can hug to feel better. Meanwhile, Hamstal and the other two are covering the goddess to make sure that she is not exposed to Haesujin's glaring eyes. Chansu then asks Haesujin why she came. Haesujin mentions that she has some good news for him. She brings out sales receipts to tell Chansu that all the apples sold out, and they all sold out for the tagged amount too. Chansu holds his head in shock and amazement because everything went off in just 2 days. Haesujin tells him that the most unbelievable part of everything is that everyone now wants a taste of the apple. Chansu is blown away because he never saw apple as something that would command so much money. He remembers that apples were usually sold for less than 1,000 gold. Because he's getting 30% of the profits, Chansu realizes that he is going to make at least 60,000 gold per apple. With a simple calculation, he realizes that he would have gained 3 million in one day if he managed to sell 50 apples. Chansu's mind blows out of the roof when he realizes that an annual profit of 1 billion is coming his way. Chansu is glad that he is on the right trajectory, and he believes that with this, he might be able to find a clue about his parents. Chansu tells Haesujin that he is not a mood killer, but he asks her how long she thinks the hype over the Emperor apples will last. Chansu knows that the apples are currently popular, but he also knows that there is no way they will continue selling for that huge amount in the future. Haesujin then assures Chansu that she understands his concern, but lets him know that 100 apples a day to a target audience of 1 million means they will still be in business for 27 years. Chansu is shocked to hear this, and he assumes that it is an overestimation. Haesujin then tells Chansu that he has nothing to worry about. Haesujin then asks him if he has thought about increasing his apple production. Chasun smiles nervously, saying he has grown other crops too, and it will be nice if she tastes them. He assures her that they are as tasty as the apples. Haesujin's eyes light up like a goblin when she hears this. Chansu then tells her to sit tight while he serves her potatoes first. Haesujin takes a bite out of the potatoes and she melts in sheer joy at how sweet they are. She starts imagining all the good things that will come out of the potato if managed right. Just then, Chansu shows up with pancakes and fries. Haesujin shed tears as she consumed the food in front of her. She mentions that the potato fries can be considered a main dish instead of a side dish. Chansu then finishes the combo with roasted sweet potatoes. The moment he serves this, Doji and Ari go crazy, demanding that he give them too. Chansu then suggests that they all eat together. Chansu notices that Ari is looking skinny, and there is one explanation for this. It is basically because Doji has been stealing Ari's food, preventing him from eating properly. Hamstal jumps on the table to eat with Haesujin, and Chansu asks Haesujin for her thoughts on the potatoes because he plans on selling them too. Haesujin thanks Chansu for the delicious meal, and then asks if there is a way he can grow the crops and also increase apple production. Chansu replies that it would be difficult, since he is going to need more points. At the same time, Chansu doesn't think it would be wise for him to use all of his points on farming. Hasujin lets Chansu know that his efforts are appreciated, but she urges him to focus more on apples. Hasujin mentions that all of the apostles are Korean, and the culture of the world is built on this. Hasujin says the food is amazing, but lets Chansu know that it is hard to charge a premium price for crops alone. Hasujin says the crops won't be as profitable as apples even if people start to demand them. Hasujin goes on her knees, begging Chansu to consider apple production as his primary assignment. Realizing that there is no changing her mind, Chansu asks her if 100 apples a day will be enough, and her eyes light up when she hears this. She thanks Chansu for reconsidering and putting her suggestion into the books. The next day, Chansu steps out to hunt monsters as usual. Doji asks Ari if it is important that they follow Chansu every time he steps out, and Ari screams at Doji, telling him that they are the only ones who can keep watch, because Hamstel is basically useless. Unknown to them, Chansu is actually wondering why the two keep following him everywhere, and he assumes that they are combat-type familiars. Chansu doesn't think there is any way actual familiars will be pretty useless to the point that the only thing they can offer is to eat. His conviction soon goes down the drain when he sees the two getting chased down by an undead monster. Chansu blames himself for thinking the two are worth the hype he was giving them in the first place. Just then, Doji trips, giving the undead monster the chance to close down on him. Chansu tries to reach him, but the distance is just too much for him. Chansu tries getting the monster's attention by screaming, but even this doesn't work. Chansu swings his sickle, but even this proves to be useless because the range is short. Suddenly, the monster dies, shocking Chansu because he knows that the sickle didn't reach the monster. Just then it dawns on him that the skill might have been upgraded, and the skill range has increased. Chansu tries it out by staying at a distance and swinging the sickle at the monsters. With just one strike, he takes out multiple targets and the window pops up, alerting him about the newly obtained range of the skill. In addition, he gets a new skill, mass decapitation, and this shocks Chansu, but he figures out that this would allow him to handle more monsters. Chansu goes on a rampage, cutting down several monsters, and this scares Ari and Doji. The two immediately run back to the goddess, who is shocked to see them back so soon. Ari tells the goddess that Chansu might have gotten stronger, but at the same time, obtaining the communication skill is also important. The goddess then urges her retainers to calm down because she never granted such a skill. Doji then tells the goddess that the name of the new skill is mass decapitation, and this name itself shocks the goddess. Fear crept through her body as she thought about this because it was her first time hearing it. Even the goddess has no idea what type of person Chansu is at this point. She assumes that he is a grim reaper sent from hell. Just then, the goddess tells the two that she might actually have an idea of what is happening. Doji hears this and his head goes into overdrive, believing that the goddess was truly the one who bestowed the skill upon Chansu. Ari is forced to slap Doji for being so dumb, and he tells him to hear what the goddess has to say before coming up with his trash ideas. Ari then asks the goddess what she thinks happened, and the goddess replies that the apostle's skill has evolved. The goddess mentions that decapitation skill is a modified version of the harvesting skill. She reminds them that the evolved skill allowed the user to engage in a wide range of harvesting, just the same way that the goddess thinks Chansu's skill has evolved into mass decapitation. Ari is surprised to hear this, and he mentions that this was something first-year apostles only could do. The goddess agrees, saying this is exactly why Chansu is pretty scary. However, the goddess thinks he is a thankful dude, which makes things a bit better. The goddess says Chansu might be growing at an exponential rate, but it is all thanks to his growth that they are safe to some extent. The goddess then says she will give Chansu the communication skill once he returns. Moments later, Chansu returns, and the goddess excitedly gives Chansu the chance to pick between two new skills, since it is against the rules to define an apostle's path. Chansu stares at the status screen to see that he has two skills that he can choose from, which are the promise of abundance and communication. The goddess is confident and assured that Chansu is going to pick the communication skill. The goddess can't wait to tell Chansu to stay away from danger and also to thank him for everything he has done so far. After taking a minute to think about his choices, Chansu picks the promise of abundance skill, shocking the goddess, who least expected this. Before making his decision, Chansu had stared at the screen for some time to know which skill would work best. He stared at the communication skill and realized that it was just a skill that allowed him to communicate with plants and animals. The horror of hearing Ari and the others scream at him whenever they are pissed made him realize that he is going to have a really hellish life if he picks the communication skill. Since there is a saying that ignorance is bliss, he decides that choosing the communication skill would be a wrong move. This is why he went for the promise of abundance instead. And the moment he picked the promise of abundance skill, he realized that everyone is pretty gloomy. He now has two skills on the board, but just like before, there is no description for the skill. Chansu then picks out an apple with the intention of giving it to the goddess as a first offering. But to his surprise, the goddess turns her back to him, and she starts to cry. On the status screen, Chansu learns that depending on how he uses his skill, the points will return accordingly. Chansu wonders why the goddess is rejecting the apple that he gave her. In an attempt to cheer everyone up, he pinches Hamstel's cheek, and this cheers the hamster up a bit. He also rubs Doji's belly to tickle him, but to his surprise, the points are not coming back. Just when he is thinking of what might be wrong, Haisujin shows up in a hurry, telling him that he has to claim the block and defend it. This shocks Chansu, forcing him to ask if someone is planning to attack them. Haisujin says there is the possibility of this because the Emperor Apple has gained much popularity. Due to this, they are forced to limit the purchase of the apple to one per person, and even with this, over 5,000 people have made reservations already. The numbers shock Chansu, and Haisujin adds that the people who reserved say they don't even care when the apple arrives, as long as they get it at some point. It is natural that, because of how popular the apple is, there will be raiders who will start targeting the apples and the block. To make things worse, Chansu's block is outside the authority zone, which means there is no protection against crimes. Haisujin wishes that they had some kind of backing because it would have completely changed the game. Chansu thinks deeply about this and realizes that the only backing he has is the goddess. Chansu figures out that if he loses, it is going to be the end for the goddess and the entire region. Haisujin tells him that the first step in curbing this is to claim the block and install a secure gate. Chansu agrees to this, and he says capturing the surrounding blocks to set up a disguised base will put them closer to Haisujin. Haisujin sees this as a really great idea because once they occupy the block and build a door, they won't have to deal with movement restrictions. Chansu then asks why the reservations increased out of nowhere, because it definitely isn't normal. Haisujin tells him that the whole block is going crazy because of the effects of the Emperor Apple. Chansu is confused about the said effects, and Haisujin mentions that there have been claims that the apple is a cure for all. This shocks Chansu, who doesn't think the apple is even capable of everything they are claiming it does. Even Haisujin believes everything, but Chansu doesn't think much about it because it is just an apple. Meanwhile, an annoying journalist is following Rohan as he enters the hospital, and he has his camera ready. Rohan visits his friend Yunsu, who is a grand alchemist. Rohan tells Yunsu that he brought a get-well gift for him, and the gift is nothing but a box of Emperor apples. Yunsu is surprised that Rohan brought the apples for him because he has heard the rumors too. Yunsu takes a bite from it and explodes in pleasure, saying the nutrition and flavor are maxed out. Unsu expresses his shock and starts asking questions about the apple, but Rohan reminds him that he is not a cuisine expert. While Yunsu is slowly eating the apples, Rohan, who brought them as a gift, is munching on them like crazy. Unsu stares at the apple and says there is no way to get this level of perfection out of an apple, even if fertilizer is used. Unsu screams out in horror when he realizes that his friend is eating the apple alongside him, and Rohan urges him to eat fast instead. Yunsu proudly tells Rohan that he doesn't care because he can easily call the Sunhwan department store and just order his own box of apples. Yunsu's hope is ultimately shattered when he learns that he might be an important person, but this doesn't mean much because the store is already overloaded with reservations. Yunsu tries to get them to sell to him by offering triple the price, but even this doesn't work. While the two are having fun, the reporter is busy taking pictures of them. In no time, an article is released stating that it was the Emperor Apple that helped Yunsu get out of the hospital. Ryu bursts out in anger when he sees this because they are already battling countless rumors, and the article is basically adding fuel to the fire. Ryu cannot believe that everyone thinks the apple is a miracle cure. Back in abundance, Chansu tells the goddess that he needs to step out for a bit to take over the surrounding blocks. Chansu tells Doji and Ari that they will be in charge of protecting the goddess. The goddess is shocked that Chansu is stepping out to claim territories, and she assumes that it is because he just got a new skill, which is not even a combat skill. The goddess grabs his leg to prevent him from leaving because it is dangerous. Since Chansu can't understand the goddess, he assumes that the goddess is holding on to him because she now needs protein. Chansu smiles, asking if beef will be fine with them. Chansu excitedly heads into the storage room to get the frozen beef that he ordered earlier. Chansu is excited because it is basically the first real meat that he has gotten his hands on. Back on Earth, he only feasted on lab-grown meat. Chansu excitedly puts on the stove and he starts grilling the meat. He admits that the smell is definitely on a different level from the cultured meat he has always eaten. Doji is already excited to eat the meat, but Chansu tells him that the meat is for the goddess. Even Ari is disappointed because Doji just ate, and he is already eager to jump on grilled meat. All while he is preparing the meat, the goddess looks absolutely mad, and Chansu believes that she is just hungry. Moments later, he finishes the meat and hands it over to the goddess, but to his surprise, the goddess trashes the delicious-looking meat. This shocks Chansu, who thinks the meat is spoiled, which is why the goddess threw it on the ground. Chansu takes out a part of it to try it to see if it is good, and he concludes that it is sweet. However, he believes that something is missing because it doesn't have the shock value of when he first had the apple. He assumes that this is the reason the goddess didn't eat either. Unknown to him, the goddess is crying so that he wouldn't go. But sadly, he can't hear her since he foolishly ignored the communication skill. On the other hand, Ari and Doji are celebrating because Chansu tells them that he is going to bring delicious meat for them when he comes back. That night, Chansu steps out just as planned, and while Ari and Doji are sleeping like logs of wood, the goddess stays awake, totally worried. Chansu arrives at the edge of the block, and the system asks him if he wants to move to the next block. Chansu then accepts the option, and he finds himself in the next block, but everywhere is pitch black. He uses the lantern to gain some visibility, and he realizes that he is in a jungle, which is completely different from where he was before. Suddenly, a swarm of flying monsters dashes toward his location, and because they are too small, Chansu makes a run for it. They are so small that he can't even target their necks, and he figures out that running back to where he came from is his best option. Suddenly, the undead monsters cross over from the other block. Chansu is shocked to see them, but before he can make a violent move, he realizes that the monsters are on his side. Since he can't hear them, he doesn't know that the undead monsters are ready to protect him from other monsters because they believe that they are the only ones who have the right to kill Chansu. To make sure that they can uphold this, they are ready to protect him. The undead monsters then head straight for the bugs to start wiping them out, giving Chansu the chance to retreat back into his own block. Just then, the system informs him that he has earned bonus points from defeating evolved monsters. This shocks Chansu because he is basically earning points from the monsters that the immortal monsters defeated. Chansu smiles evilly because he has somewhat hit a goldmine of points. He realizes that this changes everything because he is gaining points, and his customers are also increasing. The undead monsters that he was once running from are now bonuses to him. Back at the department store, Haesujin complains about the number of calls and orders that they have gotten. Ryuhu confesses that they have been allowing the rumors to fly for so long, but he doesn't think they can allow it to spiral any further. To curb the entire problem, he tells Haesujin that any mention of the Emperor Apple is strictly forbidden. He says there will be no more response to inquiries or interviews. He suggests that they greet all questions with silence and indifference. Haesujin thinks this might not be feasible because it is going to be total chaos. Ryuhu argues, saying they can't let out a word again even if they are threatened. Just as he mentions this, a sword appears on his neck, making his joke turn into reality. A voice appears from behind, apologizing for startling them. Ryuhu turns around to see that the person who held a sword to his neck is the swordsmaster, Rohan. Ryuhu is crippled with fear, and he asks Rohan why he has come to the office. Rohan says he has talked to Ryuhu's boss already, but he didn't give him the answer that he wanted. However, he hopes that Ryuhu will be more cooperative. Rohan then drops the big question, asking Ryuhu who is responsible for growing the Emperor Apple. In addition to this, he wants to know where the said person is. Ryuhu immediately runs behind Haesujin, telling her to explain things to the scary Rohan. Haesujin is shocked that Ryuhu is hiding behind her when he is the senior and should be the one explaining things. Ryuhu frantically tells Haesujin that he never thought Rohan would bring a real sword to a civilized talk. Haesujin is ultimately disappointed, and she finally understands the saying that bosses are trash. Even though she is scared, Haesujin stands her ground, telling Rohan that the company doesn't joke with their clients' information. The moment Rohan hears this, he pulls out his sword and the two almost faint from fear. Surprisingly, Rohan drops the sword on the floor instead of ripping them apart with it. Rohan then tells the two that he doesn't need them because he is just going to find the farmer by instinct. After saying this, he turns around to leave, shocking Ryuhu and Haesujin. Haesujin has no idea what is happening, and he asks Ryuhu what the dude meant by instinct. Ryuhu reveals that swordmasters usually have instincts that are far better than those of a regular person. He tells Haesujin that he once heard that Rohan solved many problems in the past using his instinct only. Haesujin is blown away by this, leaving her to wonder if what Rohan just said is possible. 2 days later, Chansu was waiting for the arrival of Rohan because Haesujin had already gave him the heads up. He wonders why Rohan has not shown up at his doorstep even after 2 days. Suddenly, he gets the notification that someone has entered the block. Without a doubt, he figures out that it has to be Rohan. He stands by the door, waiting for him to enter any minute, but to his surprise, no one enters. He assumes that there is a glitch in the system since all visitors are expected to enter through the gate. He checks through the system again, and he figures out that it is not a glitch. He decides to check out the surroundings just in case, and suddenly he is hit with a big surprise. Chansu watches as Rohan tears down a section of the barrier with nothing but his sword. Just the sight of Rohan sends chills down his spine, and Rohan walks up to him, asking him if he is the apple cultivator. Chansu tries to hide his nervousness by welcoming Rohan the best way he can. Rohan goes straight to the point, telling Chansu that he is there to buy apples. Chansu is shocked by the sudden request, and he asks him how many apples he plans to buy. Rohan says he would like 100 apples, but if he can get 200, he doesn't mind. This shocks Chansu and he screams out, telling Rohan that what he just requested is practically impossible. Chansu mentions that the limit to apples that he can sell is 50. Without arguing, Rohan says he is fine with 50 apples. Chansu then asks him what price he is willing to offer for the apples, and Rohan says 200,000 gold each. This shocks Chansu, who tells Rohan that they don't offer packaging like the stores, but Rohan doesn't mind one bit. Chansu also asks him if he is aware that he just mentioned the department store pricing, and Rohan assures him that he is aware. The amount of money Rohan is offering is so crazy that Chansu is already thinking of selling more for him. Chansu then takes Rohan to the apple tree, and Rohan is already salivating from the delicious apple he is about to eat. Chansu walks up to the tree, and he activates the Blessing of Abundance skill. Without delay, several apples pop out on the tree, and Chansu whips out his sickle, telling Rohan to give him a moment while he harvests the apples. However, Rohan tells him that there is no need for this. He brings out his sword, and in seconds he cuts down all the apples, leaving Chansu in a state of horror. He doesn't want to believe his eyes, and he just assumes that what just happened is nothing but a bug. After concluding the deal, Rohan sends Chansu the agreed-upon money, and he assures him that he will be visiting again next time. Just as Rohan is about to leave, Chansu stops him. Chansu figures out that Rohan might be a big help to him concerning the new block. Chansu then asks Rohan if he is interested in other crops because he just grew them, and he is pretty sure that Rohan is going to love it. With a straight face, Rohan asks him what kind of crops he is talking about, and Chansu says potatoes. He has not even finished saying this when Rohan says he is not interested. Chansu pushes further, saying he has sweet potatoes and beans, but Rohan's answer remains the same. After denying all of his requests, Rohan says he is going to leave. Realizing that Rohan is integral to his plan, Chansu makes a desperate move to tell Rohan that he is going to give him more apples than what they agreed upon. Chansu can sense that Rohan is not a bad person, even if he appears to be strange and wild. Chansu then tells Rohan that he needs to take over another block if he is going to continue with the steady supply of apples. To do this, he tells Rohan that he is going to need his help, and in return, he will pay him with apples. Chansu is wondering if his plan will work when Rohan walks up to him, telling him that he has agreed to the offer. Without wasting time, Rohan heads to the new block, with Chansu running after him just to keep up. Chansu is surprised that Rohan is heading to the block immediately, and he starts wondering just how strong the dude can be. Chansu notices that the ground is wet with a strange liquid, which is very different from his own block. Chansu is staring at his dirty shoes when a monster appears behind him. Before the monster can make a meal of him, Rohan drags him off, telling him to stay behind him because hanging around is dangerous. Chansu cannot believe that Rohan is using the word dangerous when he is the one who is the dangerous one. Chansu is surprised that he almost got eaten by a monster disguised as a plant. Chansu then tells Rohan that he doesn't need to do too much, since he will be the one managing the block in the end. Chansu wants to get rid of the monsters by himself. He activates decapitation, and he starts cutting down the monsters like they are nothing. After he is done, he activates the Blessing of Abundance. Meanwhile, Hasujin has entered the block, and she is moving around when she hears Chansu call her name. She looks down to check on Chansu with a bright smile on his face, but the smile disappears when he sees Rohan with Chansu, working on a plant. Hasujin rushes down to ask Chansu what is happening, and Chansu says that since he is planning on taking on the surrounding blocks, he decided to plant his foot in the area. Hasujin screams at him that she doesn't care about what he is doing, but she is more interested in why Rohan is with him. Chansu then explains his current predicament to her. Apparently, when they first arrived on the land, Rohan tells Chansu that he would like to taste the apples grown on the new land. Chansu nervously tells Rohan that there is no land there because it is all filled with puddles. The moment Rohan hears this, he whips out his sword and swings it really hard to clear a large portion of the land. He clears the grass, turning it into a space where Chansu can plant seeds. Chansu is gripped with shock when he sees this, and he wastes no time planting the seed. He then casts the Blessing of Abundance on it, and this is what they were doing when Hasujin showed up. The seed that Chansu just planted has grown into a big apple tree with bright leaves. Hasujin is surprised, but she mentions that the apple smells really weird, and Chansu agrees with her. He says this is because of the environment. Apparently, the apples have double the aroma and flavor, and depending on the point of infusion, the taste changes. Chansu then confesses that he is still experimenting with it. Chansu plucks one of the apples and hands it over to Hasujin, asking her if she is willing to have a taste, but the girl refuses, saying she will pass. Hasujin then spots the plant monsters on the ground, and she calls them ostrich tails. Chansu is surprised because this is the first time he will hear of it. Basically, the monster takes a liking to an ostrich's habits, and it is said to be active only at night, which makes it extremely hard to catch. Hasujin checks out the monster, and she confesses that the conditions look really great. He takes some of its blood into a test tube and then asks Chansu if he was the one who hunted the ostrich tails. Chansu replies that it was all him, assuring Hasujin that Rohan wasn't involved. Chansu asks Hasujin if there is a problem with this, and Hasujin suddenly grabs him, asking him if he is willing to sell them. Apparently, the ostrich tails are said to sell for a high price. Scared of the zombie-like lady, Chansu agrees that he is going to sell them. Hasujin raises her hand in the sky, celebrating like she just won the lottery. Hasujin stares at Chansu like he is the most handsome man on the planet. Hasujin can't wrap her head around the fact that Chansu is skilled in both farming and combat. In addition to this, he even has a swordmaster by his side. Hasujin cannot hide the fact that meeting Chansu is a blessing to her. Hasujin is dreaming about several products that she might still get the opportunity to sell when Chansu calls her name. Hasujin is pissed that he ruined her imagination, and she asks him if he wants anything from her. Chansu reminds her that he ordered some things, and Hasujin looks into the bag to start bringing out all the things that Chansu ordered, like pest control plant seeds. There is also a building construction kit with her. In no time, Chansu builds a portable home for adventurers, and he also plants the pest-repelling seeds in the area. This leaves Hasujin shocked because she didn't know that Chansu has the ability to also grow plants in a short duration of time. Hasujin continues wondering just what kind of person Chansu is. Soon afterward, he purchases the new block, leaving the goddess and her retainer rejoicing like babies. Chansu is also happy because he has finally become a landowner. Apparently, a single block usually consists of 100 ownership units, and once all are acquired, the faction gains possession. Chansu is exceptionally happy because back on Earth, he could barely acquire a single room. In addition to this, purchasing the land comes with a bunch of new features, and the most important one is the block's trait assignment feature. Chansu gets a tip from the system, telling him that the traits assignable to a block depend on the apostle's god or the block's nature. Chansu is happy to hear this because the feature fits perfectly with the goddess's nature. The system asks him to choose a trait to assign to the block, and his options are growth and death. Since growth sounds better than death, he thinks of choosing growth. In addition, he believes that this will help with the goddess's growth too. Chansu applies the growth trait, but things don't look entirely different from what they look like. Chansu concludes that there is no notable difference because it is still on stage 1. He checks out the status window to see that the growth trait affects basically everything. Chansu is smiling until he realizes that there is an option for spawned monster growth there. Chansu almost faints from the fear creeping through his body when he sees this. This basically means the trait has its bad and good attributes. One of the bad attributes is that the undead monsters have partaken in it too. Even though they have grown, Chansu is relieved that they are still manageable. Chansu heads out as usual to take on monsters, and he easily takes them down as usual. He is glad because the undead monsters growing stronger also means more points for him. Suddenly, Rohan appears behind him, shocking him because he didn't even sense his presence. Chansu figures out that Rohan has come to see him because his apple is already finished. Rohan wonders what Chansu meant by already, and Chansu reminds him that it has not even been a week since he got the last batch. Chansu concludes that Rohan is just going to die from eating too many apples. Chansu then asks him how many apples he needs, and he replies that he wants 120, but if he can get more, he won't mind. Chansu then tells Rohan that he would have to adjust the flavor because of the change in environment. He says Rohan will taste one for free. Unknown to Chansu, the goddess and her retainers are gathered under the apple tree. He is shocked when he gets there to find them playing around. The group almost sinks into the ground when they spot Rohan, since he looks pretty dangerous. Suddenly, Rohan swings his sword, and Chansu believes that he is aiming for the group. He dives to protect them, but in the end, Rohan was just aiming for the apples. Chansu believes that Rohan has not sensed the presence of the goddess, since he called them familiars. Just then, Rohan says he can sense the growth trait on the block, and because of this, he would like to stay and train, but he assures Chansu that he is going to pay. Chansu becomes interested when he hears that Rohan is willing to pay, and he asks him how much he is offering. Rohan smiles while telling him the amount of money he is ready to throw out. This sends Chansu into a state of ecstasy, and he immediately shakes Rohan's hand, welcoming him as his esteemed customer. Rohan asks him if he thinks his request is possible, and Chansu says yes. However, he wants to know if the environment will not be torn in half, and Rohan assures him that it won't. Chansu also asks if things will suddenly explode out of nowhere, but Rohan assures him that he has nothing to worry about. Chansu then tells Rohan that he doesn't have the power to manufacture monsters, since he doesn't even have lots of points to spare. Rohan lets him know that he doesn't need his help to sort out monsters because all he needs is a space in the corner. Chansu is surprised to hear that this is all Rohan needs. Chansu has no issues with this, but he tells Rohan that there is something else he wants aside from money. Chansu lets out his heart, saying he would like Rohan to be his guard. Since the world they are living in is prone to being in danger every time, Chansu thinks it would be better for Rohan to protect. After all, Rohan is one of the best swordsmen out there. Rohan replies that he will consider Chansu's offer if he can enhance the growth effect. Chansu is glad to hear this, and he assures Rohan that he is going to enhance the growth rate by 50,000 points every day. In addition, he's willing to provide 10 apples daily. Rohan is more concerned about the apples, and he asks if they can be purchased differently. Chansu then assures him that he doesn't have to worry about the apples. Meanwhile, Doji and the others are shaking in fear because it seems Rohan will now be staying with them. On the other hand, Chansu thinks the familiars will be happy because they have a swordsmaster protecting them. Chansu turns around to see a different reaction from the group. Rohan also sees this, but Chansu lies, saying the group is only shy because he is new. Chansu tries to get them to become familiar with Rohan, but the group runs away instead. Chansu cannot believe his eyes, but he moves past the embarrassing moment to tell Rohan his first request. Later on, the two are inspecting the other block when Rohan senses something behind the brushes. They walk over to check it out, only to find a cat lying there. Chansu is surprised because he wasn't expecting any other animals like Hamstal to be in the area. Because of how relaxed the cat looks, Chansu believes that it is not dangerous, and before Rohan can stop him, Chansu walks up to the cat to pet it. The cat wakes up to see an ugly face standing over it, and it jumps away like it just saw a ghost. The cat hisses at Chansu, which almost sends a chill feeling down his spine. The status window then informs Chansu that the cat is actually the Apostle of Negation, and it has declared war on his block. Chansu is shocked that the Apostle declared war on him just because he patted it a bit. With tears in his eyes, he asks Rohan if the cat is the Apostle of Negation because it has declared war on him. But Rohan believes that the dude is saying trash. Chansu suspects that the cat is mad because he was touched without permission. Chansu walks over to the cat to try to settle their differences while wondering why he has to fight a little cat. Just then, Rohan shocks him, telling him that he won't be fighting the cat. Rohan says the apostles he will be fighting will appear through the block's border very soon. Surprisingly, Rohan says they will be human. Chansu is shocked to hear this because it was easy for him to kill monsters, but humans are a different story. As if Rohan knows what he is thinking, he tells him that he is free to kill Negation. Rohan lets Chansu know that they have the option to resurrect at the temple. Chansu is shocked to hear this, and he asks Rohan if he is talking about a checkpoint, and Rohan says yes. Chansu considers this an unfair advantage because he and his group don't have the luxury of just getting a second chance if they mess up. Negation apostles, on the other hand, can act recklessly and not suffer the consequences that come with it. Chansu is hyped for the battle, since he is at a disadvantage, and he asks Rohan if he is going to help him with the battle ahead. Rohan replies that he is willing to help if he can. Just as predicted, a group of negation-loyal monsters and human apostles appear in the block. One of them holds a megaphone in his hand, and he makes a loud announcement telling Chansu to show himself. At the alchemy headquarters, Hasujin has taken the ostrich tail sap for examination. She is thinking about just how impressive Chansu is. She believes that Chansu is strong the way he is with the help of an artifact. Apparently, an artifact is a divine item that is created for those close to a god. Sometimes it is formed from remnants of a dead god, which in turn grants the user the opportunity to use the god's power. After thinking this through, Hasujin doesn't think Chansu is using an artifact because they are hard to use unless they match the deity's nature. Hasujin is thinking about the future possibilities of things when Unsu rushes into the room. Hasujin is shocked and even more shocked when Unsu starts walking toward her. Unsu has the ostrich tail sap with him, and he screams at Unsu, asking him where he got the sap from. The question shocks Hasujin, but without a doubt, she knows that something crazy is about to happen again. Back at Chansu's block, the apostles urge him to step out before they get tired of searching for him. Unknown to them, Chansu and Rohan are hiding in the nearby bushes. Chansu wonders why the dudes are acting recklessly, and he asks Rohan if he thinks this is because they can resurrect even if they die. Rohan confirms this, saying they are probably acting that way due to the chances of getting resurrected. Even though they have little time to engage the enemies, Chansu is relieved to have Rohan at his side. He is basically putting all of his faith in Rohan. Just then, Chansu steps out of his hiding place, holding his sickle. The apostle stares at Chansu like he is some kind of weakling, and he tells him to bring him apples. Another dude makes fun of Chansu, telling him that he is outnumbered and that he has no chance against them. However, the team starts getting nervous because they can't see Chansu do anything, which is pretty weird. After some minutes of silence, Chansu finally speaks out, telling the apostle that he is nothing but trash and that he is not worth worrying over. Chansu is confident that he has the swordsmaster backing him, and before the negation dudes will have to get the chance to do something crazy, Rohan would have dealt with them. The apostle is pissed by this, and he gives Chansu one more chance to surrender the emperor apples. Chansu retorts, telling him to head to the department store if he really wants to eat apples. The apostle is overtaken with rage because of Chansu's big mouth, and he asks him if he can handle the consequences of his arrogance. Chansu further breaks the dude's ego by telling him to go ask his mother all the trash questions he is asking him. Chansu's words hit the dude at the spot where he wants, and he angrily tells his subordinates to kill Chansu. At the alchemy office, Unsu is pestering Hasujin about where she got the sap. Hasujin feels like telling him, but she mentions that customers' information is confidential. Unsu then tells her that he only asked because of the labor fee. Unsu comes clean, saying the ostrich tail sap that Hasujin brought has a higher purity percentage than the regular ones, which is always hard to maintain their purity level. Unsu brings out a contract sheet and hands it over to Hasujin, asking her if she can continue supplying them with the sap. Hasujin replies that she might have to ask the cultivator first, and Unsu suggests that they sign a provisional contract. Unsu is happy to hear this, and he lets Hasujin know that whoever is responsible for the sap will always be welcome to the alchemy department. Back to the standoff between Chansu and the negation apostles, the lead apostle notices that Chansu is pretty calm for someone who is outnumbered. He wonders why Chansu is so confident, and on the other hand, Chansu is thinking of how he is going to take down the skeletons approaching him. As the skeletons rush toward him, Chansu activates the mass decapitation skill, and he wipes out the entire skeleton team in one fell swoop. The apostle is surprised to see his subordinates flying in the air like they are feathers. Chansu piles on the misery by telling the apostle that his subordinates are quite weak. Chansu stands above the bones, asking the apostle if he is ready to surrender. However, the apostle is not about to lose to some derated farmer. The apostle brings out an orb, and using the orb, he summons a giant monster called Heracles. Heracles looks absolutely terrifying with a lion's head attached to his left shoulder. Instead of running off in fear, Chansu still finds a way to trash-talk the apostle, telling him that he is very bad at giving names. The apostle laughs at Chansu, telling him that he is about to regret his actions because Heracles is a weapon worth lots of money. The apostle then orders Heracles to go after Chansu. Heracles swings his giant punch, but he easily dodges it. Before Heracles can make another move, Chansu swings his sickle at him and sends him to the heavens in just one strike. Heracles crashes to the ground, shocking the apostle, who was already boasting of how strong Heracles is. The apostle cries in pain, saying Heracles is a monster he has been putting together for the past 10 years, and Chansu took it down, like it's nothing. The apostle then turns to his subordinate, Soye, a fourth-generation apostle, to scold her for not joining the fight. Soye reminds the dude that he was the one who confidently went after Chansu, and she doesn't see any reason why he should complain after getting whooped by a farmer. Soye tells the dude that she's willing to get her hands dirty, but she will be getting extra fees. After all, her role was to guide the way, and nothing else. Chansu is smiling and getting excited about the whole thing, until Soye turns her gaze at him, and her eyes turn red. This is when a tip comes in, telling Chansu that Soye uses the skill called Negation of Life, which places a curse on the target. The system doesn't sugarcoat how dangerous the skill is, and before Chansu knows it, he has fallen under Soye's skill. The annoying dude starts laughing when he realizes Chansu has fallen for Soye's trap. He tells Chansu that he is about to witness what happens when someone crosses the negation. Soye screams at the dude, telling him not to forget the real reason why they came in the first place. The dude quickly gets a move on to try and find the apple tree, but he promises to get revenge for his broken creation later. As he dashes through the woods, he can smell the apples in the air, and he figures out that it is just a matter of time before he gets there. Suddenly, he notices a faint movement behind him, but when he turns around, he sees no one. He is left in confusion as he doesn't know where the person is. Suddenly, Rohan appears above him, and thanks to Rohan being a popular swordmaster, the dude recognizes him. However, this doesn't do him much help as Rohan cuts him down. Meanwhile, Chansu suddenly opens his eyes to find himself back on Earth. The last thing he remembered was fighting the negation, but he had suddenly appeared somewhere else. He realizes that things appear to be totally different from what he knows. Just then, he hears his parents call his name from behind. He turns around to see that his parents are actually standing there, and his face lights up in joy as he rushes toward them. He jumps into their arms and hugs them tightly as tears roll down his face. Chansu cries out loudly, asking the two where they have been so far, and he begs them not to go anywhere again. Suddenly, his biggest fear starts to take place in front of him again. His parents push him aside and they walk away, as he screams, begging them not to leave. Chansu screams out in pain, but suddenly, Rohan pulls him out of the weird dream he is having. He tells him that he is suffering from Soye's trick, and what he saw wasn't real. Rohan had hit Soye on the arm while trying to rescue Chansu, and she couldn't believe that Rohan was in a place like this. Soye crashes to her knees, and Chansu angrily goes after her with his sickle, ready to punish her for making him cry. However, Rohan gets to Soye before him, and he cuts her down. Soye gets buried by the swampy water, and Rohan apologizes for butting in unnecessarily. However, Chansu is not pissed about this, but he is even thankful. Chansu then suggests that they go back to base while they come back to clean up the mess. Rohan asks him what his future plan is, and he reveals that his plan is to become the world's strongest force. However, the first thing that they are going to do is to take over every surrounding block. He asks Rohan if he can keep helping with this, and Rohan assures him that he has no reason to deny as long as he pays him with apples. Chansu then assures Rohan that he is going to pay him with as many apples as he wants. As they walk back to base, they run into the black cat again, and Chansu asks Rohan about the deal with the cat. Rohan casually tells him that the cat is one of the 7 calamities, a territorial predator. This shocks Chansu because he thought the cat was a usual friendly cat, and he realizes that he might have gotten himself killed without knowing. On the other hand, the negation soldier has found himself locked up in a cell for losing the battle against Chansu. The system tells him that a surcharge penalty has been applied due to the extreme difference between his faction and Chansu's low-level faction. He is required to pay 1 million gold coins as punishment, and this shocks the dude because he doesn't think the power difference is fair. He refuses to pay the money, claiming that there was a swordmaster supporting Chansu. The system then recognizes the dude's refusal to pay as an inability to repay the required debt and would be transferred to negation. The dude sees this, and he freaks out, urging the system to come back because he is now ready to pay. Just then, he is dragged out of his cell by the undead monsters, and to make his situation worse, a scary negation apostle, Danha, shows up. She tells the dude to carefully explain what happened if he doesn't want to suffer a fate worse than death. The dude tells Danha that he found the cultivation site for the Emperor's apple. Danha believes that the dude is lying to save his own skin, but he swears it, saying Rohan was the one who disrupted his plans. Danha still doesn't want to believe this because she is well aware that the reparations wouldn't have been set too high if Rohan had fought alongside Chansu. The dude continues telling Danha that he is telling the truth. He mentions that Soye was defeated too, and this comes as a surprise to Danha. Danha then stands up from where she is sitting and she walks toward the dude. The dude almost loses his little manly ego as the scary lady walks up to him. Danha then tells the dude that they can't hold Soye accountable, which means he will be the one to suffer the consequences of their failure. Danha smiles evilly while telling the dude that she has a proposition. She grabs the dude's head and puts him under a contract that will make him a prisoner until he fulfills her wishes. She tells the dude to head to the cultivation site and start working on it. The dude argues that this is impossible, but Danha threatens to turn him into an undead if he doesn't cooperate. She lets him know that the only way he is getting out of this mess is to find a way to infiltrate the apple cultivation site. On the other hand, Chansu is still freaking out when he hears that the black cat is one of the 7 calamities. Chansu asks Rohan if they are going to be fine, and he lets him know that they would be dead already if the cat wanted them gone. Chansu then asks what would happen if the cat actually wanted to do something bad, and Rohan lets him know that the cat would simply devour their territorial rights. Chansu panics when he hears this because he doesn't even think territorial rights are something that can be eaten. Chansu rushes to check the system, and he realizes that it can actually be eaten, but he is glad that the cat has not decided to eat it yet. Chansu then demands to know why the cat is there, and Rohan reveals that the cat is there for catnip. This leaves Chansu surprised again because the monster is not a real cat, which begs the question of why it is going after catnip. Rohan then points out the fact that the cat has shrunk, and Chansu uses his blessing of abundance to help the cat. The cat rolls around on its back, urging Chansu to touch it, and when he does, he realizes that it is different from touching Homstol because the cat is big and fluffy. Nonetheless, Rohan doesn't want to get carried away because he knows the cat is pretty dangerous and might easily end him if it wants to. Just then, it dawns on Chansu that the cat has been with them for a while, and it would be nice if it had a name. After so much deliberation on what to name the cat, Chansu finally settles for Night Sky. The cat stares at Chansu, demanding to know why he picked Night Sky, and Chansu mentions the cat's attributes that made him choose the name. Suddenly, Chansu gets the notification that he has won the war and he has been given a compensation of 1 billion. Chansu is still celebrating this when he gets another notification, telling him that Negation has requested negotiations. Apparently, until they are done with negotiations, the loser will be retained as a prisoner. Chansu freaks out in pain, demanding that his 1 billion is returned to him, but there is nothing he can do about the situation. Later that night, Chansu makes a vow to the goddess while she is sleeping, assuring her that he is going to make abundance the greatest power in the world because thanks to her, his life has gotten much better. He promises the goddess that he is going to help her reclaim her lost glory, and the goddess places her head on his arm with tears rolling out of her eyes when she hears this. Later on, Chansu scolds Rohan that the only thing he has been eating is apples. He lets him know that he is supposed to be eating other foods so as to maintain a balanced diet, but Rohan doesn't really care. Even during all the lectures and whatnot, Rohan assumes that Chansu is just trying to steal his apple. Chansu is forced to leave the matter because he realizes that Rohan is a swordmaster, and he can take care of himself. After he is done with Rohan, he walks over to the goddess and her servants. He chose to speak casually to the goddess because he is still trying to hide her identity from Rohan. The goddess's subordinates freak out when they hear this, and they start yelling at Chonsu even though he can't hear them. They believe that he is acting all cool thanks to the fact that he has been earning points for them. While the others are freaking out, the pig is the first to figure out that Chonsu is probably doing that to protect the goddess, since Rohan doesn't know the goddess's real identity. Just like kids, a brief battle ensues between the pig and the chick, all because of talking to the goddess casually. Shortly afterward, Chonsu prepares to leave the temple again, and he assures the goddess that he is not going to stay long. Rohan then tells him that the flow of time in each world is different. In fact, there are differences between Earth and where it is. Because of this, Rohan advises Chonsu not to rush too much. Just when he is about to leave, Chonsu tells Hamstall that he can come with him because he has gotten a pouch specifically designed to hold him. Hamstall excitedly jumps into the pouch as he joins Chonsu on a journey to expand the territory. Thankfully, Chonsu has placed a door on the exits for easy access, and with this, he has no need for a travel pass. He steps through the door to find Hasujin already waiting for him. Hasujin freaks out when she realizes that Rohan is still with Chonsu, and he lets her know that they have agreed to stay together for the time being. Hasujin holds her head in frustration, saying she was already suspecting, but she didn't know Chonsu would go through with it. She then asks him where the cat came from. Chonsu lets her know that it was the cat who found its way to him, and he also tells her the cat's name. Hasujin is impressed to hear this as she talks about how smart the cat is. Deep down, Chonsu is pleased that Night Sky is smart enough to know that eating the territorial rights means no more apples, hence no catnip. Hasujin then tells Chonsu that smart monsters sell for a whole lot of money on the market, but Chonsu lets her know that this might be a problem. Hasujin suggests that he install a dungeon to make things easy for him because monsters naturally gather in dungeons. Chonsu thinks about it for a bit and realizes that Hasujin is right, and the dungeons might come in handy later. However, Chonsu lets Hasujin know that there might be a bit of difficulty because Night Sky came from another block, which he doesn't even know. Hasujin gets more curious, asking if Night Sky is a human who turned into a cat. But Chonsu lets her know that Rohan claims that Night Sky is a territory devourer. Hasujin is forced to say this out loud, and Chonsu confirms it. Hamstall almost dies out of fear when it hears this. Chonsu then adds that Night Sky is actually one of the 7 calamities. Hamstall's spirit immediately leaves his body when it hears this, and Hasujin tries to play it cool. She smiles, and then suddenly grabs Chonsu before leaping away from the area. With tears in her eyes, she asks Chonsu why he has one of the 7 calamities in his territory. Apparently, there are reports that the calamities can devour not just territorial rights, but entire blocks. She demands to know why Night Sky would come, and Chonsu says there is a possibility that it came because of catnip. Hasujin doesn't want to believe that Night Sky settled for only catnip when it is not even a real cat. Chonsu confesses that he doesn't know either, but he gave some really dumb explanation about why Night Sky might prefer to have the catnip rather than destroy the territory. Hasujin agrees with him but lets him know that they can't say for sure since it is all guesswork. Chonsu also knows this, but he believes that he has no choice, since he is the chosen one. Hasujin then asks him if everything is going to be fine because she would hate to come around one day only to find everything in chaos. Chonsu believes that Night Sky might actually protect the block, since cats are territorial creatures. Suddenly, Chonsu sees Night Sky trying to eat Hamstall and he rushes over to stop it. Chonsu grabs Hamstall away, telling Night Sky that it is not food. Night Sky just gives Chonsu the side-eye, and Chonsu asks Rohan why he didn't do anything when he was there. Rohan claims that he was going to stop it if something had happened, but Chonsu points out that Hamstall almost got eaten. Hasujin then suggests that they handle everything carefully before the two get used to each other. Hasujin then reveals that there is something Chonsu needs to know. Apparently there is a scammer who is claiming ownership of the Emperor's apple. Chonsu doesn't really take this seriously, and Hasujin lets him know that the dude is claiming that he is the Apostle of Abundance, which means he has a right to the apple. Chonsu is shocked when he hears this, and Hasujin adds that the dude brought an apple to prove he's an apostle, but it turned out to be a knockoff. In fact, he brought a fake contract, but everything has been cleared out. Just then, Hasujin notices that Chonsu is acting weird, and she asks him what the problem is. Chonsu is pissed to find out that there is another apostle aside from him, and he hasn't shown up from the start. To make it worse, he is now claiming ownership, calling himself the Apostle of Abundance. With a stern voice, Chonsu tells Hasujin that they need to find the dude. Hasujin is surprised as to why he wants to find him, and Chonsu lets Hasujin know that he is actually the Apostle of Abundance. Hasujin freaks out when she hears this, since she wasn't expecting it. Chonsu tells Hasujin to put a bounty on the dude, and in fact, he is ready to pay extra for the artifact. Apparently, if the dude is captured alive, Chonsu is willing to pay 100 apples as a reward. Even Rohan gets tickled when he hears the reward that is being offered. Meanwhile, somewhere in Negation's back alley, there is a dude in a hoodie thinking about how he wants to convince Rohan and Chansu. He walks into a shop, and the light comes down on his face to show that it is the Negation soldier, Kim Yoon-hook. Apparently, he is a regular customer at the shop, but the shop owner already knows that he is a broke-ass. Yoon-hook gives the shop owner a list of things that he wants, and in exchange for them, he is forced to give out the last prized stone that he has. Yoon-hook then tells the man to give him a good price because this might be the last time they are going to see each other. Realizing that Yoon-hook is totally broke, the shop owner tells him about the bounty that has been placed on the scammer. The moment Yoon-hook hears this, he dashes out of the shop, thanking the shop owner for giving him an opportunity. Apparently, Yoon-hook has finally found the proposal gift he has been looking for to try to convince Chansu. Not long after this, Yoon-hook shows up at Chansu's place. He is accompanied by 2 of his friends, who also want to serve under Chansu. To properly convince Chansu, he lets him know that he has caught the scammer. Chansu is shocked when he realizes that Yoon-hook had already caught the scammer, given the movement restrictions and all. He is not entirely surprised because the reward was too good to be ignored. Staring at the scammer, Park Hyunmo, Chansu could actually sense the aura of abundance from his body. Since he doesn't look all that much, Chansu wonders how Park was able to deceive people to scam them. Park starts grumbling, telling Chansu to untie him because he is currently practicing insubordination. Chansu angrily whips out his sickle, telling the dude that he sure knows how to piss people off. Park then makes fun of Chansu, telling him that he is only acting tough because he can't possibly kill him. Chansu walks up to him, places the sickle on his throat, and reminds him that they are both apostles of abundance, which means he knows exactly where to cut to finish him off. However, before anything else, he demands to know where the artifact is. Park scolds Chansu, saying he is trying to rob his senior. Chansu simply makes fun of him, telling him that he has been yapping all day long, which is not a good sign of a senior. Yoon-hook ignores the dude and excitedly whips out the artifact, which is a crown made from flowers. Chansu checks out the artifact, and when he realizes that there is no aura coming from it, he confirms that Park is truly his senior. This only makes Chansu angrier because it is exactly because of him that the goddess turned out the way she is. Chansu then walks up to Park, calling him a traitor and letting him know that he has no right to even talk about the Emperor Apple. Park argues that he deserves the rights that come with the Emperor's apples because he is an apostle. Chansu then reminds the dude that he didn't contribute anything, which brings him to the question of what right he has to ask for anything. Park makes the whole thing worse by asking Chansu what he has done too. Park tells Chansu that he is only walking on the foundation he has already laid. He claims that the apples, monsters, and even the temple have all been him from the beginning. Chansu is pissed when he hears this, but he tries to keep a calm profile because thinking about it, it doesn't appear that Park was working alone. Chansu then asks Park who the hell is backing him. Chansu mentions that it is his job to protect and care for his god, but he abandoned her. To do this, Chansu believes that the dude has something he relied on. Park replies that there is nothing like that because he was only trying to survive, and he ended up driven into a trash place. Chansu then raises his sword to decapitate him, since he doesn't have anything good to say. Realizing that Chansu might actually go through with it, Park screams out in pain, talking about how he didn't have a choice. He claims that he was just a normal human who had never swung a sickle before in his life. Chansu is tired of hearing his BS, and he tells him to just go ahead and tell him who is backing him. Park replies that he doesn't know because they only promised to give him money for life, and he followed. However, he got tricked, and the money never came. Chansu is surprised to hear this because the dude is basically useless at this point. Park starts begging, telling Chansu to forgive him because he would not do such a thing again. However, Chansu lets him know that it is already too late, and he hits him on the head to knock him out. Chansu wants to kill him, but he still can't imagine himself hurting a real person, even though it is a game world. Suddenly, he gets an invite from the god of negation, asking him to convert because if he becomes his apostle, he can easily kill Park. Chansu cannot believe that negation is stalking him. Chansu then asks what would happen if he killed Park, who is in the same faction as him, and Yoon-hook tells him that it is a taboo and might get excommunicated. Negation then uses this opportunity to start disturbing Chansu with more offers, but Chansu rejects everything. Negation is so desperate that it even suggests that Chansu take a month's break. Chansu is forced to scream out that he is not interested. Chansu then figures out that Negation is connected to him somehow, which is why he is able to send messages to him the way he wants. Since Yoon-hook is begging to be hired, Chansu gives him his first task, which is watching over Park. Not long after this, Chansu returns to the temple with the artifact of abundance. Chansu lets the goddess know that he is there to return what originally belongs to her, and the goddess doesn't want to take it. However, Chansu lets her know that she can, because he is doing fine even without the artifact. The goddess finally takes it, and this emits a bright light that leads to a divine transformation. Chansu watches in shock as the goddess transforms from the plant form into a young girl. Her subordinates jump up in joy because the goddess has finally gained her powers. Chansu is shocked when he sees this because he didn't believe that he was standing right in front of the goddess. Chansu smiles because he never thought he would see this day. Just then, the goddess appoints Chansu as the chief apostle, which gives him the power to manage other apostles. Chansu is surprised because he didn't know that a function like this actually existed. Chansu immediately makes the decision on Park, since he can't kill him. Chansu wastes no time demoting Park to a servant, ultimately stripping him of his apostle title. The goddess is left in shock, and so are her subordinates. This is also when it dawns on Chansu that the title of chief apostle is gone. He notices the goddess's reaction, and he realizes that the goddess must have really cared, but he somehow messed things up. Just then, the goddess starts transforming back into her plant form. Chansu kneels in front of the goddess, apologizing to her, but he lets her know that it is not advisable to keep a traitor in their midst. Chansu then assures the goddess that he is going to grow their influence further, so she has nothing to worry about. The goddess is happy to hear this, and she grants another skill option for Chansu. He gets the option to pick between the communication skill and the health abundance skill. Chansu is surprised to see this because the goddess is basically overworking herself at this point. Nonetheless, he decides to check it out. Meanwhile, the chick is pretty mad that Chansu is excommunicating people when they barely have any apostles. Thankfully, the pig is there to hold it down. The chick stares at Chansu, hoping that he will pick the communication skill so that they can avoid situations like the one that just happened. To their dismay, Chansu picks the healthy abundance option even though he has no idea what the skill does. He just assumes that it is a passive skill that makes one healthier as they eat food blessed with abundance. The goddess and her subordinates break down in tears because they believe it is finally the end, since Chansu doesn't look like someone who is ready to select the communication skill. They are still troubled about this when the goddess finally transforms back into her plant form. Seeing this, Chansu has no choice but to hope that the healthy abundance helps in a lot of ways. Later on, those who have been scammed by Park all receive a free Emperor apple from Chansu through the circulation company. They are all informed to be wary of next time because the Emperor apple only comes via the circulation company. One mother cuts out a slice and hands it to her son. Upon tasting the apple, the son freaks out because of how delicious it is, and he ends up using the F word. His mother believes that he is overreacting, but when she has a taste too, she has no choice but to use the F word. The woman decides that she has no choice but to brag about how good the apple is. Days later, the online community is going crazy about how good the apple is. The online posts then further increase the glaze on the apple. In no time, the rumors start to mutate into the fact that the Emperor apple is good for virility. Meanwhile, the situation is being monitored by a dude in glasses. Later on, Chansu thinks about the next plan of action. He is glad that he managed to secure all the blocks around the temple, and since Rohan is with him, he believes that everything should be fine. Not long after this, Haesujin shows up to tell Chansu that they have a problem. She lets him know that there is a new rumor about the Emperor's apples. Chansu doesn't think it's that serious since the apples have turned into a cure-all apple. However, he freaks out when he hears that the rumor is about virility. He realizes that this is not a simple statement since the Earth is already losing its vitality. Basically, the issue of virility was a serious one that some people even died from eating a snake's gallbladder thanks to how desperate they were. Haesujin then asks him if he is pretty sure that there are no actual effects coming from the apples. Chansu then mentions that there are a few who claim that they are seeing results, and this includes Rohan. Chansu believes that this is basically because they feel better, and in addition, he didn't even add any special virility boost effect to the apples. Chansu then suggests that they grow a fruit that is actually good for virility if they are trying to avoid backlash. Haesujin agrees with him, saying this is a good idea. They obviously do not need marketing for it again because it has publicized itself already. However, the question of which crop is going to work remains. The question, and Rohan suggests that they use wolfberries. Chansu is surprised to hear this because he believed that Rohan only cared about apples. Since Rohan suggested wolfberries, Chansu decides to go with that, and he mentions that they are going to need workers. Fortunately for Yunhook, his chance finally came, and he assures Chansu that he is going to work really well. Chansu is surprised to see how eager the dude is to work, and Chansu lets him know that he is not obligated to decide so quickly. In addition, he lets him know that he is not forcing him to participate either. One of Yunhook's friends then asks Chansu what it is that they are planning to cultivate. Chansu reveals that it is wolfberries, and the dude immediately goes on his knees, begging Chansu to take him in. Chansu cannot believe how desperate they are to work because everybody connected to Yunhook is ready to join in. At this point, Chansu assumes that the group has issues. Not long after this, Chansu invites Haesujin, and he gives her a basket of the wolfberries that have been cultivated to tackle the virility issue. In fact, Chansu has created a pill that would induce potency in just 30 minutes. Hasujin is blown away because Chansu was able to create something like this in a short space of time. Chansu is a bit embarrassed because this is the first time he will be using the blessing of abundance to actually boost a specific body function. However, he was able to discover the method thanks to a dude who is an expert in pleasure relations. Chansu then tells Hasujin that they might see a wider variety of medicines being released for a while, and he urges Hasujin to verify the safety first. Hasujin looks absolutely invested as she assures Chansu that she is going to make sure she turns every one of the wolfberries into gold. Chansu smiles, telling Hasujin that he would be counting on her. Deep down, Chansu is eager to see what kind of news the wolfberries will bring this time around. When Hasujin returned to the office, she started thinking of a way to get people to buy the berries, and her option was to make them think with their lower body rather than their heads. She decides to brew it and package it in bottles, believing that it would make it sell better. After brewing it, she drinks it in front of her boss, and he asks her how it tastes. She replies that it's savory and even has a faintly sweet taste. She mentions that it is easy to drink just like water. She then urges her boss to have a drink, but he is scared to do so. However, she manages to convince the dude to gulp up the rest of the bottle. After he is done drinking, he lets Hasujin know that he might not be able to testify about the effects, but he can surely say the flavor is decent. After this, Hasujin tells her boss that she has to leave. Apparently, she is heading to a peculiar place, which isn't the alchemy office, by the way, since they are the ones who generally certify medicinal items. Hasujin then makes her way to the only block that has been configured to remain dim even during the daylight. This is a scenery that would cause some to feel lonely, ultimately desiring partners. Staring at the environment, Hasujin realizes that all the people he is staring at are potential customers. This is basically because the happier they become, the more she sells. Hasujin then makes her way to the Temple of Purity, which is in the middle of it all. She meets the receptionist, and she states her business to her. She lets her know that she is there to obtain certification for a stamina booster, and the lady asks her to follow him to the reception room. As she walks through the hall, Hasujin is blown away by how everything is laid out. Apparently, the Temple of Purity has taken over the adult market, which is weird because lust or carnal should be the ones controlling everything. When the apostle checked out the wolfberry tea, he handed Hasujin the certification, saying it is actually effective for functional improvement. He urges Hasujin to maintain the tea's concentration. He then talks about the pill and the fact that it was slightly lacking. Hasujin asks him what the issue is, and he lets her know that wolfberries are excellent ingredients, but they need to be combined with other components. He suggests that they cultivate the other ingredients alongside the wolfberries to increase the efficacy. He tells Hasujin that she is free to supply the ingredients if she's having difficulty getting the right mix. However, this would mean that the stamina booster would be sold under the Purity brand. However, he lets her know that whatever she chooses is fine by him. Hasujin is surprised to hear how confident the apostle is, and she reminds him that she might end up having a formidable competitor. The apostle then tells her that they don't really care about this because they are always in search of new and powerful stimulation. He mentions that they started producing it themselves because there weren't enough people providing sufficient stimulation. However, the existence of a capable producer is always welcome. When Hasujin recounts this mission summary to Chansu, he freaks out because he realizes that Purity guys might be an insane bunch. Apparently, it is a taboo for those in the Purity clan to make love, which is why they grow by enduring their passions. In fact, they started seeking stronger simulations for their training. Purity was able to take over the night market, and even though they are a small faction, they ended up securing a solid economic and military power. Hasujin tells Chansu that it would be beneficial for them to get certified by Purity directly. But at the same time, entrusting the manufacturing to them is also a fine choice. Hasujin then shows Chansu the ingredients that were requested by Purity. Chansu takes a look at the ingredients and realizes that these are ingredients that he is seeing for the first time. Chansu then asks Hasujin if she is selling the wolfberry tea, and she confirms this, saying she even wants to supply all hotels located in Purity too. Since they have achieved their goal, Chansu suggests that they develop the stamina booster slowly. Chansu believes that everything has come to a calm state until he gets a visit from the Legend of Purity. This is a man who has not engaged in pleasure since the age of 40. This man is Park Hang-yeol, the Archmage of Purity. Apparently, he has come to see Chansu because he claims that he is on the verge of losing his manhood function, and if he loses it, he is going to be expelled from Purity. Chansu freaks out when he finds out that the chances of recovery are pretty low. In the start, people saw Purity as just a facade befitting the image of Purity. They were seen as ones who lived an unstained life with an aura that transcended the secular world. However, the whole block was built on territorial warfare, and given the fact that Purity has a weak faction, its future was obvious. To protect its power, Purity realized that it needed power. This was when Park realized that chastity is not the same as purity. He figures out that as long as self-control is maintained, anything is fine. With this realization, Park alone was able to produce half of the total points generated by purity in just 1 year. Chansu is surprised to hear this, and he asks Park if the god of purity allowed him to do that. Park narrates that there were initial talks about excommunicating him, but once the god saw the points he was generating, he personally encouraged Park's method. This induced a great wind of innovation in purity. Deep down, Chansu believes that this is all an addiction because both sides are corrupted at this point. Apparently, the greater the temptation one endures, the faster their spirit grows. In no time, the skill grew so much that even before impulses arose, the temptation had disappeared. Since the duty of purity is to suppress pleasure impulses and maintain integrity, Park knows he is going to lose his qualifications if the root itself disappears. Because of this, Park holds Chansu's hand, begging him to help him out, because there seems to be hope in the wolf berries. Chansu is left in confusion because he doesn't think he has what it takes to defeat a skill that has been honed for over 30 years. Park then tells him that it is not an immediate problem, so he begs him to focus on product development. Park brings out an envelope and he hands it to Chansu. He lets him know that he is ready to support his research with everything. Chansu opens the envelope and almost passes out in shock because of the high amount of money that Park is willing to give him as a reward if he succeeds. Because of how high the reward is, Chansu has no choice but to accept the task. Meanwhile, one of the first generations of the Purity Apostles calls a meeting with his colleagues. Apparently, they want to start building plans on how to maintain purity itself. It has come to their attention that Abundance has created a stamina booster. They have also verified its effectiveness, and judging from consumer reactions, they believe that stronger versions wouldn't be impossible. Apparently, the food division of alchemy is furious because of the berry tea. This is because some are already choosing the tea over what alchemy has been selling. The apostles are surprised that the grand alchemist Unsu brushed this matter aside. One of them then mentions that Unsu's friend, Rohan, has taken the Apostle of Abundance under his wings. They start thinking of the next thing, and one suggests that they approach Chansu with a good offer. Another mentions that they actually know his block's location, but going directly will definitely not work. He points out that Park, who is now with Chansu, would just detect them and chase them out. One of them immediately comes up with a suggestion. He tells his colleagues that they need to ally themselves with alchemy and draw out Chansu. Once Chansu is left alone, they kick their plan into motion. Back at Chansu's territory, he tells Yunhook to follow him because he has something to tell him. Just then, Yunhook spots his defeated creation, Hercules, in the distance. He rushes over to hug the headless creature because he didn't think he would ever see it again. Apparently, Chansu restored it because he figured out that Yunhook would resent him if he allowed Hercules to rot. Since Chansu and Yunhook will be working together, he figures out that it would be better if he raises his affection level. Chansu then asks Yunhook if he doesn't mind that the Hercules is missing its head, and Yunhook says no because the job he needs it for is simple labor. In fact, with Hercules by his side, he is confident that his labor output will increase by 17 times. Chansu then points out the skeleton soldiers too, but Yunhook is not convinced that the skeleton soldiers would be of much help. However, Chansu urges Yunhook to teach them because they might get better at it. Yunhook reluctantly agrees to this, but says they have to, or else they are just going to get in the way. Chansu is actually impressed that Yunhook can handle the skeleton soldiers, and he considers him an affectionate person. Suddenly, Chansu hears a scream in the distance, and when he looks around, he sees Park chasing around the hard worker. Apparently, Park believes that the dude is the perfect person to inherit his legacy, but the dude says he is not interested because he would like to get married and live happily ever after. The dude hides behind Chansu for safety, and Chansu urges Park not to push the dude too hard. Park then asks Chansu if he is interested in inheriting his legacy, but Chansu outrightly refuses. Chansu then whips out the new pills that he just finished, and he tells Park to try them out. Park tastes the two and mentions that they both fall under 32 and 33 points, respectively. This is pretty low because their target point is at least 90. However, Park tells Chansu to hold his head high because an ordinary man would have turned into a beast just by taking the pills. Chansu then asks why he hasn't been able to reach 40 points. Park lets him know that the caster's mental state affects blessings. He mentions that sometimes empathy comes before problem solving. Park then decides to show him what he means. He reaches his lower body, and Chansu freaks out, believing that he wants to bring out his schlong. However, Park whips out an adult book, telling Chansu that he is the only one he can show. At this point, Chansu believes that the dude is crazy. Chansu is still trying to pull himself together when Haesujin shows up, bringing news as usual. With excitement on her face, she tells Chansu that Alchemy has sent a dungeon subjugation request to Chansu. Chansu hears this and immediately pictures a dragon in his head, causing him to freak out because he doesn't know why they would request this from a farmer. Chansu wonders why they sent this request to him, since all he has is a rusty sickle and the only skill he has is decapitation, which barely counts as one in the first place. Chansu is forced to ask Haisujin if he doesn't look like a farmer because everything just doesn't seem right to him. Haisujin then tells Chansu that they might have called it a subjugation, but in truth it is a gathering request to obtain monster byproducts. It then dawns on Chansu that they might want a situation where what they want doesn't spoil. Basically, whatever Chansu cuts doesn't spoil, and Chansu asks Haisujin if the target is a plant-type monster, but Haisujin reveals that it is a high-grade water spirit. Apparently, high-grade spirits need to be taken down in one blow if one wants a chance to cut off their lifeline. Basically, this is why the request is for someone with powerful firepower, like a swordmaster. Chansu cannot believe that the request was sent to him, since it would have been suitable for Rohan. Since Chansu is reluctant to leave the territory, he thinks of refusing the request. Chansu then tells Haisujin that he is not interested, shocking her. She asks him if he is sure that he wants to reject the offer because the reward that comes with it is quite enormous. Haisujin lets him know that he will be provided with a weapon, and after this, he gets the chance to tame a water spirit. The moment Chansu hears this, he automatically becomes interested, since a water spirit is a dream item for every farmer. Haisujin then tells Chansu that it would be better if he accepts because they are currently on alchemy's bad side. Chansu then remembers that Haisujin mentioned the wolfberry tea being overshadowing alchemy's products. Haisujin confirms this, saying the request is just an excuse to clear up a misunderstanding. Haisujin then asks Chansu if there is any other reason why he is hesitating, and he reveals that he doesn't want to leave his block defenseless. Haisujin understands his plight, and she suggests that Chansu finish up the temple first. Haisujin mentions that they also received construction materials through alchemy. In addition, it appears that temples have a protective function. Chansu is surprised to hear this, and Haisujin lets him know that the temple is not treated as a strategic resource for nothing. Some days later, Chansu completes the temple, and the goddess reflects on the events that have happened in the past days. She believes that Chansu is finally making the decision to focus on internal affairs. She also wishes that Chansu would just obtain the communication skills to make everything perfect. Suddenly, the skill, the last bastion, activates in the temple, shocking the goddess and her subordinates because this is a wartime defense skill. It turns out that Chansu is testing out the temple's defenses by asking Rohan to strike it. Fortunately, the defense happens to be solid because it even blocked Rohan's strikes. Once this is settled, Chansu tells Haisujin that he can finally leave. However, he forgets to tell the goddess, but he believes that nothing would happen, since he is not staying long. Moments later, they arrive at the alchemy headquarters, and the journey was quite fast, thanks to the fact that they installed gates on their paths. Once Haisujin drops Chansu and Rohan off at the headquarters, she leaves. Chansu meets the receptionist, who tells him that they have been waiting for him. She hands Chansu a box containing the weapon they promised him, and she lets him know that he is free to exchange it for another if he doesn't like it. Chansu ends up handing over the box to Rohan for safekeeping in exchange for 2 apples. The lady then tells Chansu that he would have to cast a blessing on the potion used to tame the water spirit. She lets him know that she also can use their own blessing because his own blessing of abundance might fail. She asks Chansu what option he is going to choose, and since there is no record of what would happen if he uses his blessing, Chansu decides to use his own blessing. The lady then tells Chansu to follow her to the dungeon so he can hear the rest of the explanation as they go. Moments later, they arrive at the dungeon, and the lady lets Chansu know that everything has been set up already. Apparently, they are in a hunting ground for ordinary water spirits, and if he lights incense, they are going to come running to him, giving him the chance to hunt as many as he likes. However, he is required to defeat the boss, but the byproducts will belong to alchemy. Since the boss is in a separate location, the lady tells Chansu to let her know when he is ready. For the first thing, she tells him to cast his blessing on the taming potion. Chansu then casts his blessing on the potion, leaving a bright light as he pours in his blessing. Since he can cast as many as he wants, Chansu continues casting his blessing into the potion, and before he knows it, he has achieved 500,000 points, ultimately turning the blue potion into green. The lady confesses that this is the first time she has seen such a reaction. Curious, she rushes over to bring a water spirit. She throws the water spirit at Chansu, telling him to throw the potion at the water spirit. The potion hits the spirit midway, and the water spirit starts to absorb it. This leaves them wondering if it actually happened. Suddenly, the water spirit starts to puke, leaving Chansu to believe that his compatibility rate is bad. Chansu is thinking of what to do when a horde of water spirits rushes into the room, shocking the alchemy lady because they have not even released the bait yet. The lady immediately whips out her book to take notes because this is the first time something like this has happened. Suddenly, the first water spirit starts consuming its colleagues, further contributing to the list of things that the lady has not seen before. She asks Chansu if he took some weird medicine, but Chansu promises that he didn't. The lady then mentions that the spirit might be suffering from an overdose because it appears that the abundance blessing is acting as a lure. In no time, the first spirit absorbs the others, and suddenly, the boss appears in the room, which is weird because lures are not supposed to work on bosses. Chansu immediately gets on the defensive because he has come face to face with the target of the quest, a high-grade spirit. He is still trying to figure out what to do when the other spirit starts absorbing the boss spirit, causing it to get even bigger. The lady crashes to her knees because she can't believe that the boss just got eaten right in her presence. Even Chansu holds his head in frustration, wondering why they asked a farmer to clear a dungeon. To make it worse, the spirit's puking got even worse. Chansu tries to comfort the spirit, telling it that it is not its fault because he is the one who should have thought twice before throwing the medicine at it. Chansu places his hand on the spirit, urging it to let it all out because it would definitely feel better. Chansu also decides to stabilize the energy that is rampaging inside the spirit. After letting off a lot of liquid, the spirit ends up getting smaller. Chansu is about to say it is cute when it spits on his face. Just then, the water spirit transforms into an orb and sits gently on Chansu's hand. The lady alchemist then congratulates Chansu, telling him that he has successfully tamed a water spirit. However, she lets him know that she breached the contract by not securing the high-grade water spirit. Just then, she lets him know the two things he has to say if anyone tries to pin this logic on him. The first thing he's going to say is that the medicine provided by alchemy caused the whole mess, and secondly, he will be handing over the rights to the water that came out of the spirit. Chansu is surprised that they are interested in the vomit, but he really doesn't mind. The lady lets Chansu know that the spirit will wake up once it regains its spirit. However, she warns him that it might look different than usual, but she urges him not to be scared or shocked. Suddenly, a dude from the food department rushes into the room, declaring the whole raid a failure. Since Chansu is said to have failed, he mentions that Chansu would have to pay a penalty fee. Chansu immediately follows the lady's advice, and he mentions that the medicine provided by alchemy was what caused the mess. The dude argues that Chansu was the one who used it wrongly. He declares that they are going to be confiscating the water spirit and the weapon provided. Just then, Rohan throws his sword at the guy, but misses by an inch, thanks to Unsu showing up to drag him out of harm's way. The dude's eyes flash before his eyes, and Rohan mentions how pissed he is that he is making a mess of everything. Yunsu tells Rohan that he should resort to greetings instead of violence, since they have not even seen each other in ages. Yunsu then urges the dude to leave because he has no right to be there, or else he wants to lose his dispatcher qualifications and get buried in lawsuits. The dude immediately apologizes for causing a ruckus, and he leaves. Yunsu then walks up to Chansu to introduce himself to the dude. He apologizes that things got heated up on their first meeting, and he suggests that they wrap up business first. Yunsu tells Chansu that the raid might have failed, but thanks to that, they have a chance at the potent spirit water. He is pretty sure that alchemy is going to go crazy when they learn about a water that lures a boss. Since Chansu is not going to need it, he suggests that Chansu sell it to them. Chansu cannot believe that they are willing to pay money for puke. Yunsu lets him know that they are going to mark the raid a success if he sells it, but if he doesn't, they are not going to. Unsu has not even finished saying this when Chansu agrees to sell it. After this, Yunsu lets Chansu know that they have equipment that can make life easy for him without having prior knowledge about alchemy. Chansu has no issue with this, but he is more concerned with making medicine. He is scared that this might cause a conflict of interest like the tea. Unsu smiles, telling Chansu that they will always welcome a competitor, as long as they are competent. On their way out of the headquarters, Chansu reveals that he is not Rohan's disciple. Chansu then asks Unsu if he is cool with Rohan. Unsu is confused by this, and Chansu reminds him that Rohan threw a sword at him because of him. Unsu smiles, telling Chansu that this is nothing, because Rohan probably doesn't even care. Chansu then tells Yunsu that Rohan is obsessed with apples. He wants to know if there is anything that can be done, but Yunsu tells him to give up because there is no way to convince Rohan. Just then, a driver pulls up beside them, telling Chansu that he is there to escort him, leaving Chansu confused. Apparently, Purity was the one who sent the dude to pick Chansu. On their way to Purity headquarters, Chansu is surprised that Purity would even ask to see him. He assumes that Purity is curious about Park, who is staying with him. Upon arriving at Purity, Chansu is surprised to see that it is dark, just like Hasujin mentioned. Chansu steps out of the vehicle, and he is blown away by how massive and beautiful the Purity Temple is. He admits that it is different from the others, and the driver urges him to follow him so he can escort him to the reception room. Moments later, Chansu and Rohan arrive at the room where the elders are waiting. The elders apologize to Chansu for calling him out of the blue. They assume that he is tired from his journey, and they offer him tea. One of them then asks Chansu about Park. Chansu then decides that he is going to tell the truth to avoid giving false hopes. Chansu mentions that there have been no improvements whatsoever. Another elder asks him about the development of the medicine, and Chansu reveals that it is slow, but there is a bit of progress. They ask him if there is the possibility for progress, and Chansu assures them that he is going to try his best. Suddenly, the elder with glasses on tells Chansu to stop the production of the cure, shocking Chansu. In fact, they want him to drag out the completion process for the medicine. Chansu reveals his confusion because he believes that Park is important to them. One of them then tells Chansu that it would be better if he joined them, since making the medicine is difficult. They let Chansu know that they are going to give him double of whatever Park promised him. This is when it dawns on Chansu that he might have gotten himself involved in a troublesome issue because they appear to be wary of Park because of his influence. Chansu then tells the elders that he is just going to ignore what he just heard. Deep down, Chansu cannot believe that they expect him to trust people who would betray their own comrades. Chansu then stands up to leave, telling the elders that he hopes they all reach an amicable agreement. One of them screams at Chansu, telling him that purity is not the way it's supposed to be. He talks about the vulgar things that the apostles are doing, but Chansu reminds them that whatever is happening is also the will of their God. Just then, one of them tells Chansu that they are going to cancel the tea certification that they gave to him. Chansu is shocked when he hears this because they pushed him into a corner. Chansu starts thinking of talking to them, but he lets them know that going back on their words would basically make purity lose its credibility. Rohan then tells Chansu that it is time for them to leave. The elder in glasses screams at Chansu, telling him that he is going to regret his decision, but Chansu tells them to do whatever they like. After Chansu is gone, the elder in glasses apologizes to his comrades, saying his acting must have been lacking. However, they let him know that he tried his best because they all chose this plan, since direct harm is not allowed. Since their third method is a failure, the group decides to move to Plan 4. With no one in objection, they all decide to go ahead with the plan, since they are all aiming to achieve their target. Apparently, they are going to make Chansu lose focus on creating the vitality potion by diverting his focus to other things. In short, they are planning to make Chansu a hero. Not long after this, Chansu returns to the territory and the goddess rushes over to hug him. The others are also happy to see him, and they just wish he would get the communication skill quickly so that everything can become easy. Park then asks Chansu if he had a safe trip, and Chansu lets him know that he did, thanks to him protecting the block. Chansu then tells Park that he has something to tell him, and this is the fact that the elders are betraying him. Park doesn't want to believe this because he believes that the elders are just having a minor feud. But when Chansu tells him that the elders already instructed him to stop making the vitality potion, Park almost shatters into pieces. Park apologizes for this and tells Chansu that he will leave to sort everything, but Rohan tells him that it would be better not to go. Chansu mentions that after talking with Rohan, they have figured out that the elders are just trying to delay the development of the vitality potion. Chansu says it appears that the elders have no trick up their sleeve, but he doesn't know what it is yet. Park then says the elders care about their bodies and would not do something that is dangerous. He believes that the elders might just call Chansu to apologize, but Chansu doubts this because the elders are really proud. Park then asks Chansu what he plans to do, and Chansu reveals his plan to speed up the development of the vitality potion. Suddenly, a bright light starts shining from under Chansu's lower body. Park immediately assumes the worst, but Chansu quickly whips out the source of the light, which is the water spirit orb. Apparently, the water spirit is waking up from its sleep, and when the goddess sees this, she starts wondering what her apostles have gone ahead and done again. Just then, the water spirit emerges and jumps on the ground. To Chansu's surprise, it is not what he expected because it turned out to be a slime. Meanwhile, the Purity Elder's 4-stage plan is basically to conciliate, threaten, stall for time, and then make Chansu a hero. Chansu freezes up as he tries to understand why the water spirit is a slime. Even Park is surprised because he has never heard of a water spirit being a slime. Chansu then gets close to the slime to touch it, only for the slime to whip out its squishy hands, shocking Chansu. Nonetheless, Chansu figures out that the spirit can understand them. Park then congratulates Chansu, saying it is hard to tame spirits. Just as expected, the goddess's subordinates start screaming at the slime to greet the goddess, since it is the latest addition to the team. Chansu then introduces the slime to the rest of the team, and it dawns on him that the slime doesn't have a name yet. As usual, Rohan comes up with one of his weird suggestions. He tells Chansu that they should name the slime Wadit, but Chansu immediately rejects the idea, and he decides to name the slime Spring. Park is pleased with the name, and he asks Chansu if it has any meaning. Chansu reveals that he took the name from the spring season when plants grow fresh and lively. After he is done naming the slime, he suggests that they see what the slime can do. Just then, he notices that everyone on the team is hungry, and he decides to make food first. He tells Park to stay around because it is dinner time already, assuring him that he is going to prepare something delicious. In no time, Chansu gets down to preparations, and Park asks him what he is planning to make. Chansu replies that Park will find out very soon. When Chansu needs help with the apple, he throws it to Rohan, who slices it into tiny bits with his sword. Park cannot believe what he just witnessed because he never thought a sword could be used this way. Not long after this, Chansu finishes preparing the food. He made potato noodle pasta, potato pancakes, candy, braised, and a special apple pie for Rohan only. Park takes a bite of his dish and declares that it is very delicious. Park declares that he regrets not eating with Chansu all this time. Chansu lets him know that there is still plenty, so he urges Park to take his time. In fact, Chansu wishes Rohan could eat what they are eating too, but he is busy with his apple pie. Chansu then tries to feed Spring with his blessing, but Spring wants food, not blessings. Chansu then throws him an apple first, and Spring absorbs the apple in no time. Spring enjoys the apple so much that it starts blushing. Chansu lets Spring know that there is a lot, so he can always eat as much as he wants. Not long after this, Chansu visits the other block, and Yoonhook runs over to tell Chansu that they just created a path so that he can easily cross over to the other block. Because of this, their efficiency has also increased. In fact, Hercules is working really hard, and everybody on the farm is trying their best. Chansu cannot believe how enthusiastic the bunch are even though they are prisoners. Yoonhook notices the slime, and Chansu introduces it to Yoonhook. Yoonhook and the others are shocked that Chansu has managed to tame a water spirit. Chansu commends Yoonhook's work so far and suggests that they take a break so that they can see Spring's abilities. Chansu then tells Spring to show them its abilities. Spring then uses its power to create the nearby lake, shooting up a large quantity of water. Chansu is impressed by this, but the water ends up splashing in Night Sky's direction. Pissed off by this, Night Sky leaps toward Spring, but Chansu grabs it to pet it. He lets Spring know that Night Sky is gentle, but at the same time, it might be scary when angry. Chansu manages to defuse the situation, and he tells the workers to return to work. After everything has settled down, Chansu continues playing with Spring, and he tells it to make some drinking water. Spring excitedly does this, and they are still having fun when Chansu notices that the system window is glitching. The occupancy rights are glitching, leaving him confused, and suddenly, Night Sky leaps onto his body. Before Chansu knows it, Night Sky bites him, ultimately stripping him of the rights to certain territories. Chansu grabs Night Sky when he sees this, as he tries to understand why it did what it did. He remembers making life easy and convenient for the cat by providing everything it wants, only for it to repay him with something like this. While Chansu is busy crying about the rights that he lost, he notices that the cat is smiling. Instead of overreacting, Chansu decides to calm down because he knows Night Sky is a smart creature, and there must have been a reason why it did what it did. He notices that he lost occupancy rights, but at the same time, the system window has returned to normal. Just then, Park shows up, and Chansu asks him where Rohan is. Park reveals that Rohan is currently training, and he asks Chansu if something is wrong because he looks absolutely dejected. Chansu then tells him what happened, and Park screams out, asking if he just encountered an occupancy parasite. Chansu is confused by this, and he asks Park what he means by this. He asks Chansu if he has been doing a closed-door training somewhere because he expects him to know everything. Park then explains that if a block gets infected, the moment one buys the occupancy rights to the block, the buyer also gets infected. If the infected buyer buys a right to another block, the new block also gets infected. If this process continues like that, it basically ends in total ruin. Park mentions that the infection multiplies infinitely and even stays hidden, which is why it is hard to notice if one is hidden. Park lets him know that by the time the infected knows what is happening, the infection will be complete. Chansu then asks Park what happens when a block is overtaken by the parasite, and Park reveals that the block loses its functions. Basically, buffs and debuffs disappear and entrances get blocked. Park lets Chansu know that the blocks he has owned before would also get infected, and he urges Chansu to be careful. Chansu looks through his possessions and realizes that he still has 90 occupancy rights, which means Night Sky only ate the 10 affected rights. Chansu is glad to hear this because he is pretty sure that Night Sky would never have done that without a reason. Chansu walks up to Night Sky and provides more blessings for its home, thanking it. Nonetheless, Chansu is sad that all the blocks connected to the city are gone when he finally manages to open a path. Chansu then remembers that when he bought the occupancy rights near the city, there were other factions. Chansu then asks Park if there is an insecticide or something for the bug because he wants to know how they have dealt with the issue till that moment. Park mentions that there might be a solution, but there has not been a certain solution. Chansu then notices that Hamstol is disturbing him, and he shuns it off. Suddenly, he realizes that there must be a reason, and it suddenly dawns on him that the goddess might be the reason. Meanwhile, the goddess is currently missing Chansu because he has not been focusing on the goddess for a while. Her subordinates are comforting her when a black portal suddenly opens in the sky. A voice emerges from the portal talking about how he smells something nice that he would like to have. The goddess and her subordinates threaten the monster, telling it to leave or else it will regret it. The bird and the pig then charge toward the monster, and the goddess tries telling them to stay back because it is too much for them to handle by themselves. While charging toward the monster, the two imagine themselves transforming into their scary battle form. The two kick the monster, but they end up getting knocked down. Just when the goddess is about to sacrifice the points that Chansu has worked for, Rohan shows up to one-shot the monster. After destroying the monster, Rohan bows to the goddess, and she is surprised to see Rohan bowing to her. Rohan even sits with them, and he brings out an apple for them to eat. The chick and the pig wasted no time consuming the food. The goddess finally concludes that Rohan is a good person, since he is Chansu's friend. Just then, Chansu comes rushing over, and with fear written all over him, he asks if anything happened. The chick wastes no time insulting him for leaving them alone. When Chansu heard that Rohan helped them, he bows to him, thanking him for saving them. Rohan then mentions that it was an occupancy parasite that showed up, but he cut it down already. However, Chansu lets Rohan know that he has not finished off the parasite, and this is just the beginning of their problems because the parasites will keep appearing from that moment on. Rohan is still munching on his apple, but when he hears this, his appetite vanishes. Chansu asks Rohan what he means by this, and he reveals that what he cut down was just a fraction, but there were countless insects with something more sinister behind them. Chansu remains stunned by this, and Park chips in on the conversation, saying it is most likely the core organism, like a queen ant. Park mentions that there is likely an individual managing them, since it doesn't appear that they self-replicate. However, the bigger question that they need to be asking is why the parasites show up at that time. Chansu replies that it might be related to the temple on the block, and because it is a special block, they might be looking to swallow it whole. He checks the occupancy rights and mentions that there is no abnormality in it, unlike other places. Rohan then asks him what the plan is, and Chansu replies with every determination that they are going to protect the temple. Park quickly cuts in, telling him that they don't have a dewormer, so he doesn't know how they are supposed to protect it. Chansu tells him that if there is no dewormer, they are just going to make one for themselves. Park teases him, asking him how he plans to make it, and Chansu reminds the priest that he is an apostle of abundance. He mentions the things he has been able to do and says he might as well make a test version. He reveals that there are anti-parasitic plants in the Western Bloc as well, and they can even ask Hyosogen for other plants, but Park lets him know that it is not as easy as he is saying it. Some days later, they head to an infected block in an attempt to try out what Chansu has created. Chansu tells Park that the best place to carry out the experiment is where there is an infection because they can't allow anything to happen to the temple. He suggests that they get it done fast, since Rohan is still guarding the temple. Park asks him if he brought the dewormer and he says yes, saying it is inside his bag. He reaches into his bag to bring it out, but to his surprise, the stubborn hamster is hiding out in the bag. The hamster leaps out to check out the environment, and Chansu reminds it to stay inside because it might be dangerous, but Hamstol would rather sit on Chansu's shoulders. Chansu checks into the bag, and he is thankful that the medicine is intact. He decides that the first thing he is going to do is to try to regain the lost occupancy rights, and before using the medication, the system informs him of a successful buy. Chansu is surprised that everything looks normal, and he expresses his concern that they might have moved blocks. Nonetheless, Chansu brings out the medication, and after swallowing it, he starts losing the rights to the infected blocks. Chansu celebrates because his plan worked, revealing that the system had already glitched, causing him to lose the occupancy rights. Chansu then starts planting the block dewormers in the ground. After this, he lights them on fire so they release smoke into the air just like mosquito coils. Chansu hopes to have a positive effect even though he can't fully eliminate them. Park then notices his sword and comments on it, saying he hasn't seen it before. Chansu whips it out, revealing that it is a form-changing sword that he got from alchemy. The shape of the sword shocks Park because it looks curvy, and Chansu mentions that it can even twist its trajectory in real time. It is said that the durability is low, but Chansu still believes that it suits him well because he is cutting off heads with decapitation skill. Suddenly, a rift opens in front of them, and little monsters start popping out of the rift, shocking Chansu because he was expecting something really terrifying. Chansu tells Park that it doesn't look really dangerous for something that is considered to be a calamity. Park admits that it is also his first time seeing them, but before Chansu knows it, a lot of them start popping out from the rift, shocking him. Chansu is also left in shock because he can't even see the head of the so-called calamity. Suddenly, Park unleashes a golden light from his body, and the tiny monsters start to form giant versions. One of them charges toward Chansu, and Chansu cuts it down with precision. 3 others try to surprise him from behind, but he easily takes them down. Park is shocked when he sees this because he never thought Chansu was this strong. Just then, Chansu throws Hamstel to him, telling him to take care of him while he fights the monsters. Once Chansu realizes that the monsters have started growing heads, he lets out a good smile because he's going to have a good time dealing with them. He urges Park to stand back, and Park can only thank his stars that Chansu is on their side. Moments later, Chansu is done cutting down all the attacking monsters, and the rift starts to disappear. However, they notice that there is no core organism in what they defeated. Park lets him know that the dewormer wasn't a waste, and while they are talking, one of the last stray monsters approaches Park, but he easily blasts it into smithereens with his power. Chansu sighs in disappointment. Imperfection was impossible to achieve, but Park urges him not to be discouraged because seeing their forms alone is a win. Since Chansu already mentioned that he ordered new anti-parasitic plants, Park is confident that the results with those will be better. Chansu finally gets back up after taking enough rest, saying Hasujin will soon arrive. Just as predicted, Hasujin shows up, asking if nothing unusual happened while she was gone. It turns out that she is not alone, and Park asks her who is standing behind her. The lady behind her finally comes into the light, and it turns out to be the lady assistant from Alchemy, Edwin Paracel. Chansu immediately recognizes her as the alchemy lady who helped out in the water dungeon quest. The two shake hands, and Chansu asks her why she is there with Hasujin. Hasujin clears the air, saying they didn't come together because she only ran into her. Chansu immediately becomes suspicious of the lady, asking her what brings her to the block. Edwin then drops a shocking bomb on Chansu, telling him that she would like to be employed under Abundance. Chansu immediately asks why someone from Alchemy would want to work for Abundance, and she reveals that she would like to research a new water spirit. Deep down, Chansu already knew that she was a studious person because of the risks that she takes. Edwin then continues by saying she is also there to deliver pharmaceutical equipment. Chansu commends her, saying it must have been a stressful journey thanks to the restrictions. But she lets him know that she didn't want to miss a single moment of watching a water spirit grow. She mentions that she could have followed Chansu that same day if she had her way, but she needed to sort out the handover first. Chansu is pleased with this because it shows that she has a sense of responsibility. Chansu then asks her if she is planning to use any weird drug for her research, but she assures him that she doesn't. She lets him know that everything she wants to do is purely ecological research, through observation. Since this is all she wants to do, Chansu tells her that he is going to allow it. Chansu cannot believe just how crazy she is when it comes to research because she lets Chansu know that she doesn't care about the environment, as one room is enough for her. At the same time, Chansu is worried that the lady might have an ulterior motive because she appeared at the right time. Nonetheless, he decides that he is just going to trust her in the meantime. Chansu then taps her on the shoulder, telling her that they are going to talk again once things are settled. He turns to Hasujin, asking her if she brought the items he asked for, and she says yes. She dips her hand into her bag and whips out a sachet containing garlic, mugwort, and clove. Hasujin asks him what he plans to do with the items, and he reveals that he wants to make a dewormer for occupancy parasites. Hasujin is shocked when she hears this because she knows that the occupancy parasites are one of the 7 calamities. Chansu then tells her that she is right because the research she wanted to ask her for is regarding the dewormer. He asks if it's going to be too difficult for her, but she assures him that he has nothing to worry about. Edwin also jumps in, saying research and the like is her specialty. Just then, Hasujin lets Chansu know that Purity sent an invitation, saying they want to apologize. She mentions that Purity already promised to cancel the certification revocation and continue receiving supplies. Chansu mentions that he might not be able to visit the human domain at the moment because of the parasite issue. Hasujin lets him know that he might be able to enter if he has an invitation from Purity. Chansu then asks about coming back, and Hasujin confesses that this might be difficult because they also sent a request for Park to return. Chansu sighs in disappointment, saying the group is really shameless. Chansu is not entirely surprised because he knows that they are just trying to delay stamina potion development. Chansu notices that Hasujin looks down, and he wonders if this is what is bothering her. Chansu then tells her not to worry about all of these because it is thanks to her that they are getting news. Hasujin smiles when she hears this, thanking Chansu for the compliment. She then reveals the last bit of news, saying that if someone eats or owns anything from outside the human domain, they will be infected by a parasite. Park is shocked by this, and he asks if this is also Purity's doing, but Hasujin replies that no one is certain about it. Apparently, there is a bulk load of people who want to monopolize the Emperor Apple. Seeing how important the whole thing is, Chansu suggests that they go immediately. He tells Hasujin to meet him in the West Block because he needs to get Spring. When Edwin finally sees Spring, she freaks out in shock because she didn't expect it to take this kind of form. She mentions that water spirits are usually in human form, not in the shape of a slime. Chansu lets her know that the slime's name is Spring, while asking if there are any special advantages to the slime form. The only thing she can mention is that Spring is cute, and Chansu just agrees with her. Chansu then tells Spring that Edwin would like to examine him. He asks him if it is fine by him, and he lets off a sign to show that he is good with it. Since Spring has no issue with it, Chansu suggests that they discuss the employment terms, but Edwin reminds him that all she needs is a room and board. Chansu disagrees, saying he is going to pay her a minimum wage of 1 Emperor Apple per day. 1 apple is worth 200,000, so Chansu believes that this should be fine. He also lets her know that she has no right to go to the temple, so she will be working in the block where they are. Edwin freaks out when she hears this because this is the same block where the corruption dudes like the skeletons are working. Edwin almost passes out in shock because she can't believe that she has to work with corruption. She urges Chansu to reconsider because she might just come down with nightmares, but Chansu tells her that they are all employed by abundance, so she has nothing to worry about. He adds that they are getting paid well, while mentioning the fact that they are better than they look. Edwin realizes that she has no choice and starts to accept her new reality. Just then, Night Sky walks up to her, and she ignorantly pats him on the head like a regular cat. Chansu and Hasujin freak out when they see this, leaving her to ask what might be wrong with them. Chansu then tells her the nature of the cat, and before she knows it, Night Sky roars at her with a terrifying aura, scaring her back. She screams out in fear because she is not expecting one of the 7 calamities to be on the block. Chansu casually tells her that Night Sky won't react unprovoked, but she already did, which is why she got the reaction that she did. At this point, Edwin is already crapping her pants, wondering if she came to the wrong place because there are 2 calamities residing in the area as if it is nothing. In the coming days, Chansu continues with the termination of parasites. He was able to make a dewormer with Edwin's help, and this turned out to be a big win. In fact, it even heals infected people, and all that is left is for the block dewormer to succeed. Suddenly, a rift appears in front, shocking because he just planted the dewormer, and it appears that it is already working. Surprisingly, the core organism makes its way out of the rift, and Chansu smiles because he has been waiting for the annoying monster. The organism looks so ugly that Chansu is left thinking about its ugly appearance until it almost eats him up. Chansu manages to leap backward before unleashing his decapitation skill. He lunges toward the monster, ready to carve it up at once, but it dodges the attack. Chansu is shocked to see this, and the monster even launches a counterattack that forces Chansu to jump backward. Chansu smiles because he understands that the monster is a calamity monster after all. Seeing how serious the fight is about to become, Chansu lays Hamstall somewhere so he can be safe. He then turns to the monster, suggesting that they have a proper fight this time around. As he prepares to attack the organism, Chansu knows that decapitation only works if he strikes the neck, and he can't rely on ranged attacks because they are too fast to land properly. This tells him that there is only one way out, and this is to challenge the monster face to face. Suddenly, the monster leaps into the air, shocking Chansu. As if this isn't enough, it unleashes little minions at Chansu, but Chansu is not entirely worried because all of these don't make a difference. With just a swing from his weapon, he takes down the monsters diving toward him. The core organism realizes just how dangerous Chansu is and tries to make a run for it, but Chansu chases it down. Before it can slip back into the rift, Chansu delivers the finishing blow, cutting down the core organism. Chansu heaves a sigh of relief and tells Hamstall that it can finally come out, but Hamstall is already stunned from all the jumping around. Suddenly, the system tells him that there are unclaimed points, and Chansu is shocked that defeating the monster was enough to trigger a notification. Chansu checks it out, and to his shock, defeating the organism gives him more points than the immortal ghost hunt. He screams out in shock and immediately starts to consider starting a parasite farm. However, this might not be possible again, since the core organism is dead. At the same time, he wonders if it is okay to turn a calamity into livestock because if one looks at it critically, insects evolve in terrifying ways. He remembers that mosquitoes survived the collapse of the earth, and if he messes up, he might just bring calamity upon the earth. Chansu decides that he is going to think about it more carefully because developing resistance will be a disaster. Moments later, Hasujin comes rushing over to tell him that there are already rumors that he has developed a way to deal with occupancy parasites. She asks him if it is true that he has already perfected the insecticide, and Chansu smiles nervously, asking her who is spreading such rumors. Hasujin says she doesn't know, but she thinks it might be Purity. Chansu decides not to throw out accusations, and he tells Hasujin that it might be completely coincidental. He shows her the amount of infected areas and says there might not be a need for a farm if there are many to treat. At the same time, Chansu is worried about the number of infected areas, wondering if it was spread intentionally. It turns out that he might be right, as Hasujin confirms this. She explains to him that every new great summoning for apostles is followed by massive territorial expansions. She mentions that real estate speculators jumped in during the 5th expansion, and they wanted to claim land that would soon become human territory. To sabotage their rivals, they intentionally spread parasites, and chaos was the result. Chansu cannot believe that some people would do this, and he considers them total idiots. She mentions that there is also a conspiracy theory that the group that discovered the cure released it intentionally. Chansu freaks out when he hears this because he is slowly being regarded as the mastermind. At the same time, he knows that they are not wrong because cleaning up requires that they capture blocks. Chansu asks her if the answer to this is to sell the insecticide, and she replies that, unless he plans to purify every existing block, it would be better if he distributes the insecticide. Chansu then tells Hasujin that he is going to clean the places that he was involved in because he bears part of the responsibility. Later on, the third-generation apostle of violence is seen stressing out over the number of monsters that they have taken out. He is complaining about this when one of his men tells him that Chansu is said to be responsible for the monsters. The dude screams out in anger because they know that Chansu is Rohan's disciple, so the dude assumes that the whole thing was developed according to his specifications. He yells in anger, saying he is going to show Chansu how scary customers can be. Chansu is resting some days later when he gets a notification telling him that one of the products he listed on the circulation shop has received a review. Chansu is excited by the whole review thing because he wants to know what someone thinks about his insecticide. He quickly stands up to check it out, and he realizes that there is no reaction to the insecticides. However, he wants to know about the burning ones, and this is when he starts seeing low-star reviews. One even says he almost died using it, but in a shocking turn of events, one customer leaves a comment telling everyone to eat the insecticide instead. This person gave it 5 stars, but Chansu doesn't care about that because he is freaking out over someone who is in their right mind eating what they are supposed to burn. It turns out that the third-generation violence apostle is trying to withdraw from smoking, but the process is really tormenting. He thinks about how he is supposed to look cool with a cigarette in his mouth, but here he is trying to abstain from smoking. Nonetheless, he decides to push aside the excuses, saying he has to quit no matter what. He brings out the pack of cigarettes that he has, but just as he's about to be tempted to take it, he smashes it on the ground. He tries to act tough, saying his willpower is his strength because he is going to quit this time around. In frustration, he grabs the insecticide and takes a bite out of it. He realizes that the insecticide has a spicy, tingly flavor with a rich aroma. He is surprised that the taste is also good, leaving him wondering what it is because he only munched on it out of anger. Meanwhile, Chansu is still freaking out about the reviews because he can't believe that a dewormer managed to turn into a smoking cessation aid. He is in the middle of this when Hasujin shows up asking him if he has seen the reviews for the dewormer. Chansu replies that he has, and it was already causing him a bit of a headache. Hasujin, on the other hand, is exhilarated because she believes that the insecticide is going to be a huge hit. She mentions that it has gone from being a quit-smoking aid to a popular spice. Chansu is forced to ask her why people are setting it on fire when there is already an oral dewormer. Even though it is not meant to be eaten, it is not particularly dangerous. Since Chansu doesn't know why people are eating it, Hasujin gives him a stick, telling him to try it out. Chansu does, and he admits that it is somewhat delicious. And since the effect of abundance is on it, one won't die after eating it. However, he thinks edible and should eat are very different. Hasujin asks him if he has seen that the taste is okay because the unique spicy kick perfectly meets the needs of people trying to quit smoking. Chansu then realizes that they are using the stick instead of candy or gum. Chansu admits that it is nice, but he doesn't understand why it has become a popular spice. Hasujin cannot believe just how disconnected Chansu is from the world, but she decides to explain things to him. Hasujin reminds him that the world is full of believers, apostles, and general citizens. She mentions that among the original residents of the world, those who serve a god are called believers. People like Chansu, who are sent from Earth, are apostles, and since general citizens have no rights over occupied territory, it appears that they are not involved in the whole infection incident. However, the merchants jumped in to get a piece of the pie because they spread wild rumors that parasites might contaminate household goods. As a result of this, everyone rushed out to buy dewormers. Fortunately, the parasites didn't harm ordinary people, but they ended up becoming an annoying surplus item. Not long after this, a rumor spread that it was incredibly effective for those who wanted to quit smoking. Thanks to this, a lot of people started eating it. In addition, the exotic flavor led people to start using it as a spice. Chansu cannot believe that it was made to lure parasites, but humans have found a way to be the ones getting lured instead. Hasujin mentions that it also has a variety of uses, and she heard that they are putting it in chocolate and ice cream. As if this isn't enough, some people are even processing it into small sticks to start selling them. She brings out the processed one, and Chansu is left in shock. He asks Hasujin how long it is going to take to get rid of all of them because deep down, he is worried that the parasites might develop an immunity. Hasujin smiles, asking him how they should handle the whole thing, and Chansu replies that he would like to ban it all, but this is not entirely possible. Chansu knows that how it is used is entirely up to the consumer, and he decides that the first thing he is going to do is to separate the production of the edible version used as a spice. And as for the incense dewormer, he plans to reduce the size. However, he tells Hasujin to give a strict warning not to break it down any smaller than what he produces. Hasujin is surprised by this, and she asks him if he thinks the parasites will become drug-resistant, and he confirms this. Hasujin lets him know that he is worrying too much, and he agrees that he might not have been entirely concerned, but reminds her that they are dealing with one of the 7 calamities. Deep down, Chansu knows that he might be overreacting, but at the same time he has a bad habit of being pessimistic. He then wonders if it is because of this that he is being stalked by the god of injustice. Since he plans to make the dewormer small, Hasujin tells him that it might be a waste to continue farming such big crops. There are basically garlics that are the size of a person's head and even mugwort, the size of an umbrella. However, Chansu argues that there is no problem with this because it helps with efficiency. It turns out that the shapes ended up looking deformed because he was focusing on size and properties, but he believes that it is all going to turn out well. However, he is adamant that he is not going to take the communication skill because he is not ready to hear things like Big Bro or other boring stuff. However, little does he know that half of his worries are about to come to pass. Some days later, the goddess is shocked by the amount of income coming in, and she figures out that Chansu is taking a lot of risks. The goddess is impressed at how Chansu does his things, and even though he is doing a lot, he has never neglected the farm for once. The goddess decides that she has to give him a new skill because he is really talented. She asks her retainers if they think it is high time she gives Chansu a new skill, and they ask her if she is interested in giving him the communication skill. She says yes, but at the same time she is worried that she might just pull a random skill like pest control. The goddess says Chansu might as well vanish just to wipe out every insect on the planet. The ping tells the goddess that Chansu will definitely pick the communication skill this time around because he has been doing well enough. The chick also agrees with him, saying this will be the 3rd time in a row, so Chansu should know that he is supposed to pick the communication skill. Moments later, Chansu arrives at the temple, and the group excitedly runs over to meet him halfway. Chansu is shocked when he realizes that the whole group is out to meet him. The goddess then offers him the communication skill with an additional skill. Chansu hopes that he is going to get a skill that looks peaceful, but isn't appealing. Just then, the options appear in front of Chansu, and in addition to the communication skill, there is a skill called Fertile Land. Apparently, Fertile Land is a skill that improves the soil, and it is suited for wide fields or wheat paddies. It is completely unnecessary for an apostle with limited space according to what the goddess is thinking. She is excited that her apostle will finally choose the communication skill, and she seriously prays that he does. Chansu stares at the screen for some time and assumes that the communication skill is a fixed option. He concludes that he has done a lot of bad things and doesn't deserve to pick the communication skill because he might just get killed by an elf if they see what he is doing to the crops. Chansu decides that he would rather not have more things to worry about because even without the skill, the pig, Doji, is always begging for food. Ari is always nagging while Spring is urging him to play. On the other hand, he miscommunicates the whole thing, believing that the goddess wants him to pick Fertile Land. Because of all of these, he decides that picking up communication skills is not worth it. With a smile on his face, he picks the Fertile Land skill, but the reaction he gets immediately tells him that something is wrong. Even Spring shifted away from him, and the goddess threw her head down in disappointment. The goddess basically concludes that she is screwed. Chansu then mentions his worry that the familiars are growing a bit slow because birds are supposed to grow fast, and it's been months already, but Ari remains a chick. Doji also remains a piglet, and Chansu decides to ask Rohan about it. However, Rohan ignores him because he is more focused on his apple. Chansu then decides to try out the new skill, and he activates it, releasing a bright green light. Chansu is surprised that he can shoot the blessing from his hand at a distance. The blessing makes the plant it hits get even bigger and greener. Chansu turns around to see Rohan staring at him weirdly, and he immediately figures out that Rohan wants him to use it on the apples. Chansu cannot believe Rohan because the apples are already big, and he is just trying to make them bigger. He fires it in the direction of the apple tree while complaining that it would have been better if it were something like an increased germination rate. The goddess hears him complain and groans in frustration, saying this is why he should have chosen communication instead of a strange skill. The next day, Chansu heads to the West Block to meet Park, and it turns out that his last experiment didn't work really well. Park urges him not to be too impatient, telling him that there is still time left. Park even urges him to tell him everything about the magazine he read, but Chansu screams at him to filter his thoughts because the kids are with them. Chansu then says it is their priority to avoid the backlash of the skill, Pure Mind, because they have already concluded that removing the source is impossible. He mentions that they have only made it this far thanks to Spring's Water and Edwin. However, he believes that they need something more, and he reveals that the experience of making the pest repellent helped a bit. He asks if there are any similar problems, and Park asks him about the Apostles of Purity. Chansu then asks if medicine won't be enough for them in the meantime. Suddenly, Chansu's expression changes, and Park asks him what is wrong. It turns out that Lee Minsu, the Apostle of Violence, is trying to enter his block, and Chansu lets Park know that violence has finally come for him. Minsu shows up, and he walks up to Chansu, telling him that he needs his help. He takes off his hat to reveal his bald head, and he asks Chansu if it is true that he can make hair abundant. Chansu is left in shock because he doesn't know when another weird rumor started to fly around. Some days earlier, Hasujin had gone to deliver items to Minsu, and this was when he noticed how good her hair is. He asks her if she's been eating something good, urging her to share the secret with him. Hasujin replies that there is nothing special, but Minsu believes that she's been secretive, and he urges her to remember how far they have come. This is when Hasujin starts to wonder if there is really a change because her friends had said the same thing. Her friends had told her that she was glowing while asking if she was dating someone new. It suddenly dawns on Hasujin that this can bring in a lot of money because the beauty market is huge and it has incredibly high profit margins. Hasujin then tells Minsu that she has been eating the black beans grown by Chansu, the apostle of abundance. Hasujin knows that it might be a bit dramatic, but all of Chansu's crops have actually produced a dramatic effect. Minsu immediately becomes interested because he has always thought Chansu was just a profiteer. Hasujin is worried because Chansu has occupied the nearby blocks, but Minsu lets her know that he doesn't mind making Chansu his brother as long as he is able to help them out. He reveals his intention to initially attack Abundance because they occupied areas around the Violence faction. Minsu immediately withdraws this idea and even decides to make Abundance his colleague, saying any attack on Abundance is an attack on him, which is an attack on Violence. However, he tells Hasujin that he will have Chansu's head if he doesn't live up to his expectations. Hasujin can only hold her head down in frustration because she has somehow pushed Chansu into another complicated issue. Now that Minsu is standing in front of Chansu, Minsu tells him not to try to lie because Hasujin already told him everything. Chansu is shocked to hear this, but suddenly remembers Hasujin telling him that Minsu might be coming for him. He finally understands what she means by this, but he takes solace in the fact that Hasujin didn't spread the rumor out of malice. Minsu then asks Chansu if he is trying to swallow Violence because he has already occupied all the blocks surrounding them. Chansu replies that he didn't actually know that there was a village there. Minsu tells him that it's a bit too much to call it a mistake because they were already preparing for war. But it doesn't matter. Seeing how everything is played out, Park realizes that Chansu is already hooked to the Violence faction. With a scary voice, Minsu lets Chansu know that he's going to have himself to blame if it turns out that he can't do what they want from him. Chansu holds his head in frustration, wondering why everyone is choking him out because he is a freaking farmer, not a doctor. Apparently, when the Earth got ruined, there were so many negative people crying over it, and among the many dispatched worlds is the block-type territory world. There was a place compatible with a god that is considered very important, so it was inevitable that there would be much negativity. There were also some who embraced wrath in their time of pain. It turns out that a ridiculous fate awaits them, and this is a fate where they would go bald. Those who were afflicted with this started crying, saying they would have chosen negation instead. One even thought about shaving all of his hair off, but his senior let him know that this is also not going to help. It turns out that their hair falls out anytime they use their powers. In the end, it meant becoming more powerful while losing more hair or remaining a lower apostle while protecting one's hair. The Violence faction was where true warriors were chosen, but even they had not given up on their hair. Minsu then tells Chansu that they are now brothers, and he tells him that he is pretty sure that there is a way. Deep down, Chansu is crying in pain because he has no idea how to help grow Minsu's hair back. Chansu teases Minsu, asking him if he has tried visiting negation because bringing back the dead is their specialty. However, Minsu's facial expression tells Chansu that he can't be joking with things like this. He quickly apologizes, and Park knows that Minsu and his gang are already desperate, which is why they had to come to Chansu for help. Chansu then wonders if it is okay to use the blessing of abundance on a human. Chansu tries it on himself and immediately makes his hair grow even longer, shocking Minsu to his bones. He wastes no time asking him how he was able to do it. On the other hand, Chansu is relieved that it worked, and he figures out that it might be useful for changing his style. However, it is not an entirely good method because he doesn't know if new hair sprouted or the existing ones grew longer. In addition to this, it costs some points, which means it is not entirely efficient. Chansu then tells Minsu that there is something he would like to try first, while smiling at the dude. Without hesitation, Minsu rushes over to Chansu, telling him that he is free to try whatever he wants to try. Chansu then fires off the blessing to Minsu's head. Minsu felt the heat, but to his disappointment, his hair didn't grow. Chansu then asks him if he has a skill that causes hair loss, and he says yes. He mentions that this is thanks to the heat emitted when they use their skills. Chansu realizes that purity is the lower half, while violence is the upper half. Chansu cannot help but thank his stars that he is in the Abundance faction. He figures out that the whole thing might be similar to that of Park, since it is a granted skill. Minsu stupidly asks Chansu if he can't plant hair since he plants crops all the time. Chansu stares at him disgustingly, wishing the dude would just go ahead and find a doctor. Chansu then decides that they are going to have a look into it in the meantime. Later on, Chansu heads over to Edwin's office to find her, where she is busy drawing the water spirit. She is totally carried away by this until Chansu screams out his name. Edwin asks him what he wants, and he replies that he has a request. Chansu gives her a bowl of walnuts and black beans, urging her to make a blend that is effective for hair loss. Without wasting time, Edwin gets it done and returns the bowl to Chansu. Chansu and Edwin then sit down to start mixing, and moments later, they are able to roll the mixture into pills. Chansu then takes the pill to Minsu, telling him to try it out because he is pretty sure that this will have an effect, but there might be a need for precise adjustments. Minsu uses it and he feels the sizzling effect on his head just like before, but to his disappointment, his hair doesn't sprout. Chansu then tells him to keep taking the pills in the meantime, while they hope for progress. He assures him that he is also going to gather more ingredients to help. 2 days later, Minsu and the other apostles show up in Chansu's block. With their bald, shining heads, the group begs Chansu to save them. The reflection from their head almost renders Chansu blind, and the group tells Chansu that they have finally gained the momentum to overcome their harsh fate, so that they can grow. They urge him to treat them, and Chansu lets them know that the items he ordered have not even arrived yet. The group tells Chansu that they have everything he needs, from brown rice to green tea. Chansu cannot believe the number of ingredients that they have, and he tells them to bring everything. Chansu then tells the group that he is not promising to cure them, but he is going to do his best to show them hope. The group rises up in excitement, telling Chansu that they will do anything as long as he cures them. Since he needed extra hands, Chansu realized that he might just use the group for his own tasks. Moments later, Chansu sits them all down to feed them with meals infused with blessings. The group is shocked that Chansu was able to grow the crops in such a short time, and he lets them know that it is the blessing of abundance. They thank him for the meal and start to munch on it, while admitting that it is quite delicious. Chansu is glad that they are enjoying the dish, but he teases them, saying they all look like a bunch of ostrich egg nests eating rice while letting off steam. The lower apostles freak out, believing that Minsu is going to tear Chansu apart for the joke, but nothing happens. Chansu then tells them that they can ask for more if they want. Suddenly, the steam on Minsu's head increases and he stands up in excitement. Everybody watches in anticipation, and to everyone's surprise, tiny hair follicles start to emerge from his head. Suddenly, the others start to feel the same effect, and tears of joy run down their faces. They rush over to Chansu to thank him, telling him that from that moment forward, abundance and violence have become one. One of them says he was doubtful because it was a meal instead of medicine, but it turns out that his worry was for nothing. Chansu then tells them that it is something to celebrate, but he mentions that it is too early to be relieved. The dude asks him what he means by this, and Chansu reminds them that their hair falls out when they use their power. He then suggests that they have a spar, and 2 apostles engage each other in a sparring session. This results in light so bright that Chansu realizes that the apostles should not be messed with. Moments later, Chansu stops the fight, saying it should be enough for what he wants to know. They check out the hair, and surprisingly, it looks fine. Chansu suggests that the dude rub his head once, and Minsu does this. In a heartbroken shift of events, the hair falls off, and the dude groans in frustration. All of them crash to their knees in tears, and Chansu asks if he can touch their head. He does, and to his shock, it is so hot that he thinks he can even fry an egg on their boiling head. Chansu then mentions that their heads are always so hot, which is why nothing can grow there. Chansu then asks them if it has to be real hair, saying there are other options like hair from another creature or maybe plants. Minsu tells Chansu that he is not interested in this, and he almost blinds Chansu with his head, telling him that he wants to save his hair. Chansu has no choice but to agree, and he suggests that they keep eating the meals in the meantime. He then asks them if there is anyone who wants to volunteer for an experiment he wants to carry out. Minsu asks him what the experiment is about, and Chansu replies that they have to check whether the hair remains without the meals he is giving them. The group takes time to reply, and Chansu tells them that they can all experience it together, but the group immediately dives into a game of rock, paper, scissors. As time goes on, a bitter truth is revealed that if they didn't eat plentiful meals, the power of their hair roots weakened. Even when they diligently ate well, the hair didn't grow dramatically, so Chansu continued to improve the hair growth cuisine. However, the hair grows thicker every time it grows back, but even so, it pops out like popcorn when the heat rises. Chansu starts looking for solutions like a gel or something, and Minsu can see how hard Chansu is working to help them. Minsu then asks Chansu if he is willing to take a look around their block. Chansu admits that he has always been curious, but he asks him if it is actually fine to do so. Minsu assures him that it is fine, saying he can even connect the entrance, since they are brothers. Moments later, they head to their block, and Chansu is surprised that it is not that big. Minsu lets him know that only a select few warriors come over there, which is why it is small. Chansu spots a peculiar block in the distance, and he asks if it is for the purpose of mining. Minsu confirms this, saying one's skill can also grow faster if one trains there. Chansu notices that every member in the group is wearing a hat, while the entire block itself is cold. Minsu then tells Chansu not to stare at the members so much because they don't really like it. Chansu apologizes for this and realizes the need to finish the medicine as soon as he can. Chansu then asks him what grows on the snowy mountain in the distance, and Minsu replies that it is a spiritual medicine called Snow Ice Herb, which contains cold energy. Chansu realizes that he was only trying to change the subject, but it appears that the medicine might help with the cooling hair gel he is trying to develop. Minsu mentions that the medicine sells for a high price, but it is not useful for them because if they eat it for some weird reason, their strength weakens. Chansu says this might be because it suppresses the authority of their skills, and since this is the case, Chansu is confident that it will be useful. Chansu asks him if the ingredient is a plant, and Minsu reveals that it is grass. Chansu is glad to hear this, saying he might actually be able to increase the efficacy and properly cultivate it. Chansu then asks Minsu if he is willing to sell at a higher price, while also using it as a material for cooling hair gel. Some days later, the familiars almost lost their minds when they saw Chansu bring Edwin into the block. Edwin turns to Chansu, telling him that the chick is shouting, and Chansu lets her know that Ari is shy around strangers. Deep down, Chansu hopes the familiars will lay off of Edwin because she is just a cool person who only cares about spring. Chansu is able to distract the familiars with food, and once their attention is off Edwin, she thanks Chansu for bringing her to the temple. Chansu lets her know that it is all fine because it is his request. He then suggests that they finish up what they are doing as fast as they can. They mix all the ingredients into a test tube, squeezing them all together, and in no time, the required hair cooling gel emerges. Chansu commends Edwin, telling her that she has worked hard, but Edwin humbly replies that it is her job. Chansu also thanks Spring for always working hard because he is always available to make water. Moments later, Park shows up, and to his surprise, he realizes that the hair cooling gel is already done. What is left is the hope that it works, and Chansu says they just have to keep trying. Chansu is about to leave to test the effectiveness when the goddess grabs him by the leg because she can't believe that Chansu is always off to somewhere. Chansu is shocked by this, and he realizes that the goddess must be worried because they have been spending less time together. Chansu then carries the goddess to somewhere private to whisper something in her ears. The goddess turns red from blushing, and once Chansu realizes that he has satisfied her, he prepares to leave. He assures the goddess that he is doing well because he knows she is just worried about him. All the goddess can wish for is that her apostle returns safely, and with a smile on her face, she declares that her apostle is the best. Shortly afterward, Chansu arrives at Minsu's place and he finds them meditating. Their hair has grown too, and Chansu tells them that the hair gel is ready. He gives Minsu a chance to try it out, and he does, giving him a chilling vibe on the head. Minsu decides that he is going to try to use his skill, and after releasing power from his body a bit, Chansu tells him to stop. Chansu lets him know that the gel is a temporary fix. Minsu asks him what he means by this, and he tells him that his hair might have survived, but the hair gel has completely evaporated. Minsu then suggests that they put the gel inside his hat and wear it, and Chansu admits that it is a great idea. With this, Minsu decides to try sparring, and after a successful sparring session, Chansu tells Minsu to take off the hat. However, he is reluctant to do so because he is scared that his hair would fall off. One of the apostles doesn't really care what he thinks, and he drags the hat off his head. Surprisingly, his hair is still there, and Chansu lets him know that the hair looks perfect on the outside. However, when he checks inside the hat, he can still see hair follicles. In addition, Chansu knows that Minsu held back his strength because he was scared that his hair would fall off. Chansu lets him know that he cannot truly overcome this way if he is scared of the unknown. Chansu then tells him that the only solution is to grow the snow ice plant on his head. Minsu immediately disagrees with this, and Chansu explains to him that he is not talking about literally growing the plant on his scalp. Chansu mentions that they are going to plant the herb on the hat just like hats with flowers. Minsu is not entirely impressed, and Chansu says that they can try something like an Indian headdress. In fact, he tells him that he can think of it like a plumed helmet because back in the Roman era, this was the peak of manly fashion. Minsu is still not convinced, but he wants to know if it is really possible to grow the plant in a hat. Chansu tells him that the problem is not the hat, but the environment. He wonders if there is a way for the snow ice herb to survive the heat. Minsu then mentions that there is actually a plant called a heat-absorbing herb, even though he doesn't know if it will help. Minsu says it is the opposite of the snow ice herb, and it is a plant that grows by absorbing surrounding heat, but it is found in a place even more dangerous and remote than where they are. Minsu mentions that there were people who usually gathered it, but at the moment, everyone has been catching parasites. Deep down, Chansu immediately figures out that they have started a parasite farm. Minsu is still talking about how difficult it might be to gather it when Chansu tells the group that they need to set off on an expedition immediately. Back at the temple, it turns out that Chansu left Hamstall behind, and this has everyone curious because he always carries him along. Doji believes that Chansu is out there eating something delicious, but Ari scolds him, telling him that not everyone is a foodie like him. On the other hand, the goddess is seriously worried that Chansu's task is dangerous, which is why he had to leave Hamstall behind. Suddenly, it dawns on her that she promised to trust her apostle, but she is already getting the familiars worried. She figures out that everything Chansu is doing is for the good of abundance, and she immediately gets off her ass to caution the stupid thoughts that she is having. She walks up to Hamstall, telling him not to worry because Chansu will definitely take him along next time. With the goddess's assurance, she is able to settle the growing unrest among the familiars. Meanwhile, Chansu and the other violence apostles who followed him have reached where the heat-absorbing plant is. Chansu smiles at them, saying he is glad that they reached the summit without any major problems. However, Minsu and his gang can't believe what they have witnessed so far. They start whispering among themselves because on their way to the summit, Chansu was easily cutting down monsters like they were nothing. It is at this point that Minsu knows that they would have been dead if they had tried to declare war. Chansu notices the strange expression on their faces, and he asks if something is wrong, but they quickly adjust, telling him that nothing is wrong. Minsu then mentions that when a block is swept by one of the 7 calamities, the typhoon, the environment usually changes completely. But he is glad that it didn't happen there. Chansu is shocked when he realizes that something like that happened on the mountain. He then suggests that they head up quickly before the typhoon blows. Suddenly, Chansu turns his sword into spider legs so he can sit on it and use it as a means of transportation. Minsu asks about it, and he replies that it is his sword that changes form at will. Minsu is surprised, but even more surprised that Chansu is using it for something like this, and Chansu teases him, saying he lacks imagination. Suddenly, they come under attack by an eagle, and to Chansu's surprise, the eagle is completely bald. Minsu decides to take on the eagle, and before doing this, he splatters plenty of hair gel on his hair. Minsu goes after the eagle and punches it to the ground, knocking it out. He even carries it back to the team, and when Chansu asks him why he is still carrying the eagle, he replies that it is a delicacy. Moments later, they finally made it to where the heat-absorbing plants are located. Minsu talks about how refreshing it feels to stand where they are, and Chansu explains to him that this is because the heat-absorbing herb is absorbing the heat. Chansu is pleased that they came to the right place, and he suggests that they gather the herbs quickly so that they can know if it is going to be the key point. However, after the experiment, the herb only served as a heat-absorbing agent, and in order to overcome the fate of violence, Chansu concluded that they still needed the power of the snow ice. With this, hats combining the 2 herbs were created. Chansu creates one each for the members, but Minsu is not entirely satisfied with his because he believes that it looks flimsy. Chansu cannot believe his ears, but he doesn't even argue with him. He angrily switches the one he gave with one that has flowers in it, and Minsu loves this. Chansu cannot believe that Minsu is seriously happy with walking around with a flower on his head. Minsu then tries to use his power and he exerts it to the maximum, but to everyone's surprise, his hair stays intact, leaving Minsu to shed tears of joy. After his celebration, Minsu taps his chest, assuring Chansu that violence will never forget the favor he just rendered them. Minsu goes down on his knees and the rest of the team follows suit. They tell him that his enemies are also their enemies and they are going to crush whoever comes against him. Chansu is blown away by their gratitude, which he believes is a bit hasty. However, he fully understands that they trust him already, and he has no choice but to admit that it feels really good. Later on, from the plain laurel wreath, the beanie woven from leaves, and the very flashy Native American headdress, the carefully cooling hats all became a massive hit. However, this was only permitted for the true warriors. At the same time, other partial drugs became popular, and it was thanks to the believers of violence. Chansu smiles because the profit margin is somehow good compared to the labor costs. In addition, Chansu now has more hands on deck thanks to violence. Minsu then asks him if he gained points from helping them out, and he says yes. Chansu mentions he actually got more points than he expected. They are in the middle of this conversation when monster ghosts show up. While Hasujin and Park are busy doing their things, Chansu believes that it is his job to cut down monsters because he has concluded that abundance is a militant faction. Chansu draws his sword and dashes toward the monsters, wiping them out in one fell swoop. Minsu is left in awe because no matter how many times he sees it, he can never get used to it. Minsu mentions that immortal ghosts are famous for leaving curses behind, and Chansu tells Minsu that he just has to slash them before he gets cursed. Minsu doesn't understand this, and Chansu tells him that all he needs to do is to literally kill them instantly so they don't leave a curse. Minsu is surprised by this because it doesn't really sound impractical since Chansu hunts more than 100. Chansu corrects him, saying it is actually 443. Later on, Minsu is seen sitting by the fire, lost in thought, when his friend Jang shows up. Jang notices his demeanor and he asks him why he looks sad even though his hair has grown. Minsu then asks Jang if he can catch immortal ghosts, and Jang says he can even though it might be annoying. Minsu then tells Zhang that he is talking about catching 400 of them every day, and Zhang replies that it might be possible after building up their muscles really well. However, Minsu lets him know that Chansu isn't muscular, but he is strong. Zhang taps him on the shoulder, telling him that abundance and violence are different from each other. He mentions that they have methods that both suit them. Meanwhile, the other members are busy building their muscles like crazy, and Minsu asks why everyone is now obsessing over muscles because it wasn't like that before. Zhang reminds him that in the past, everyone wanted to go all out, but they couldn't because their hair would fall out. In addition to this, the meal they have been getting from abundance makes their muscle gain come on fast. Zhang then tells Minsu that they need to build up their muscles to raid dungeons. Zhang mentions that there are a lot of neglected dungeons because of the parasite hunting, and they need to build more strength to save up money so they can repay the favor. Minsu agrees with him and immediately runs over to the wait to undergo some reps. Some days later, the familiars are seen resting in peace because everything has been going well, thanks to Chansu spending more time with the goddess. Even the goddess is happy, and she wishes that every day would just be like that. Her body runs cold when she hears Hasujin's voice behind her because she knows she never comes for anything fun. Chansu then asks Hasujin if something is wrong, and she replies that it is nothing major, but it appears that a new species of parasite resistant to the anti-parasite has appeared. Chansu freaks out because this is a major problem, and Hasujin adds that the parasites can even spawn on their own now. Chansu asks her why this happened, and she reveals that after the violence faction became more active, the other factions got scared of losing their jobs and reportedly withdrew some of their parasite-hunting forces. Their firepower decreased, but they still burned the anti-parasite like they always do, which led to failing the hunt, and the parasites that survived escaped before supposedly evolving. Chansu remembers that Minsu had told him about the plan to go to the dungeon, and he realizes that this is the aftermath. Hasujin mentions that the new parasites are causing massive damage to humanity, and all the blame is being placed on the war faction, which failed the initial subjugation. In an attempt to overcome this, the war faction has sent a very polite request for cooperation. Park is not entirely surprised because it is obviously their fault. He also doesn't believe that they can be polite, but when he checks out their request, he realizes that the letter is actually polite. Hasujin tells them that it is pretty serious for one of the top factions, the war faction, to have taken such a low stance. She also adds that the products of abundance have a huge influence on the world, and for war to have asked to make a new anti-parasite, it shows that the parasite's resistance has gone through the roof. Chansu then asks Hasujin about the reward for this. Hasujin mentions that the war faction has hinted about an artifact. Chansu asks if it is an artifact of abundance, but she says no. Chansu is surprised by this because Hasujin already told her that artifacts need to be compatible. Chansu asks if it is an artifact of war, but Hasujin says no. In a surprising revelation, she mentions that it is an artifact of death. Well guys, that's the end of the video. If you like this video, comment next part in the comment section. Also subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and like the video. Thank you for watching and see you next time.